Chapter 51. But, Your Highness, Chen Baiyan looked up. Her delicate and pitiful appearance made Chu Xiaoyang's heart skip a beat. She caused this king to lose face at the wedding yesterday. She couldn't even raise her head in front of her colleagues, and almost harmed you and the child in your stomach. This king only sent Mother Lin to teach her a lesson and not take her life, which is already letting her off easy. You don't need to plead for her anymore. Moreover, this king has decided that whether she lives or dies, it will be up to the heavens. Chu Xiaoyang coldly ordered, "Someone pass on this king's orders. No doctor is allowed to enter the palace to treat the princess. If anyone disobeys, they will be punished according to the family laws." Your Highness. Chen Baiyan's expression was anxious, but her heart was filled with pride. My good elder sister, Mother Lin's stick is not weak. Without a doctor to treat you, I want to see how long you can live. What Chen Baiyan did not know was that Chen Ning, who had been beaten until she couldn't move, had already left the king's palace. At this time, she was happily strolling through the streets of the capital city with Xiao Ru. The last time she left the palace, she had escaped, but this time she came out with the token in hand. Naturally, her mood was different from last time. Leaving the palace this time, she was dressed very simply. Xiao Ru had helped her put her hair into a bun and casually used a sandalwood hairpin to tie it up. She was wearing a plain gray short dress, and she had specially applied a layer of ginger powder on her face, covering her beautiful face. Only her eyes were still clear and bright. In short, no one would take a second look at her if she walked on the streets. Low-key, she had to be low-key. Although Chen Ning came out to make money, she knew that being too eye-catching would not do her any good. She just wanted to silently make a fortune. Xiao Ru was already used to Chen Ning's strange actions. She knew that she would never be able to guess what the young miss was thinking, but as long as she stayed by the young miss side, she would not suffer any losses. There were more people in a place with more business opportunities. Chen Ning naturally understood this. She brought Xiao Ru to a place with a lot of people. Not long later, they arrived at a bustling street. There were all kinds of stalls on both sides of the street. There were stalls selling jewelry, cosmetics, the four treasures of the study, sugar figurines, and monkey-wielding swords. Just looking at it made the two's eyes blur. The vendors were shouting out their wares, and there was an endless stream of people walking by. Chen Ning's eyes suddenly lit up. That's it, it's here. She walked to a carpentry shop and spent 10 copper coins to rent a wooden table. She also borrowed a pen and paper from the shop owner. With a wave of the pen, she wrote 8 big words. Iron mouth, divine foresight, 100% accurate. As a micro-expression expert from the modern era, of course, she had to make money with her skills. Xiao Ru Zhao's expression expert from the modern era, of course, she had to make money with her skills. She had never remembered that the young miss had learned fortune-telling. She thought to herself, is the young miss trying to make a living as a swindler? She had never remembered that the young miss had learned fortune-telling before. She whispered in her heart, the young miss wouldn't be thinking of becoming a swindler, right? Chen Ning anxiously scratched her ears and cheeks. It was like there was a thorn in her, but after sitting down for a while, she stood up and looked around. She was very confused. The other stalls had quite a few people, but not a single person came at Chen Ning's stall. Xiao Ru anxiously scratched her ears and cheeks. It was like there was a thorn in her, but after sitting down for a while, she stood up and looked around. Chapter 52. Chen Ning just smiled the entire time. She was not anxious or impatient at all. They waited until the sky turned dark and the people in the market slowly dispersed. Many of the vendors had already packed up their stalls and left. She slowly stretched her waist and looked at Xiao Ru. Girl, why do you have such a sad face? Xiao Ru pursed her lips and touched her empty purse as she said, Young miss, you said you brought this servant out to earn money, but this servant hasn't seen a single copper coin. Instead, we spent 10 copper coins in vain. We don't even have money to eat buns anymore. Chen Ning gave a laugh. She scratched Xiao Ru's nose and said, Are you laughing at your young miss for not having the ability to earn money? Isn't it easy to earn money? All right, then I'll show you my skills. Her eyes turned and fell onto a hurrying old man. She smiled at Xiao Ru and said, Girl, Our money for today's meal will depend on this person. Xiao Ru followed Chen Ning's gaze and saw that it was an unfamiliar old man. She couldn't help shaking her head, not believing it at all. Chen Ning stood up and walked in front of the old man. She cupped her hands with a smile. "Old uncle, you're blessed to have a child at such an old age. Congratulations, congratulations." The old man had a head full of white hair and was wearing a silk robe. He was around 50-60 years old, and he was holding a basket in his hand. He was currently walking in a hurry, but he was suddenly stopped by Chen Ning. He couldn't help being stunned. When he saw that Chen Ning was an unfamiliar girl that was not even 20 years old, the old man's face revealed an impatient look. He gave a perfunctory nod to Chen Ning and said, "Same to you. Same to you." He walked past Chen Ning and continued forward, not even looking back. Xiao Ru saw that the young miss had been given the cold shoulder. She was afraid that she would be sad, so she prepared to comfort Chen Ning. She saw the old man walk a few steps before suddenly turning around. He looked at Chen Ning and said in a doubtful voice, "Little girl, we don't know each other. How did you know that I had a child at such an old age?" Chen Ning smiled as she pointed at the 8 words on the table. She said with a smile, "My family has an ancestral art of fortune-telling. There is no fortune-telling people's fortune that doesn't work. When I saw old uncle from afar, your forehead was glowing and your face was red. I calculated that you just gave birth to a fat boy this year. Isn't this a great fortune?" The old man's eyes popped out, and he had a face of disbelief. "You're saying that you calculated this for me?" "Of course." Chen Ning smiled and nodded. The old man was filled with doubt as he looked over Chen Ning. No matter how he looked at her, she did not seem like an expert fortune-teller. His impression of fortune-tellers was that they all wore long robes, had long beards, and looked unfathomable. There was no way they would be like this young and smiling girl in front of him. "Uncle, if you're willing to listen, why don't you sit down and let me read your fortune for you? I'll help you predict the future of your fat son. How about that?" Chen Ning looked at the old man's face and saw the doubt in his eyes. She did not explain because the more she said, the more suspicious it would be. Her suggestion was what the old man was most concerned about. Which father in this world didn't want to know the fate of their precious son? The old man nodded without even thinking. "All right, then you can help this old man read it." Chapter 53. The old man put down the basket in his hand and sat down in front of the fortune-telling booth. Chen Ning handed over a pen and paper and said with a smile, "Old uncle, just write a word." The old man thought about it for a bit before writing the word success. He was worried that the other party would shoot his mouth off and say something unpleasant. That would be very unlucky, so he chose the word chung. As the saying goes, one's wishes come true. She couldn't say anything bad about this word, could she? Who would have thought that when Chen Ning saw the success word, the smile on her face disappeared? She knit her brows and gave a sigh. The old man's heart skipped a beat, and he swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He nervously asked, "Miss, is there anything wrong with this success word?" Chen Ning shook her head and gave a sigh. The old man's heart became even more uneasy. He nervously said, "Miss, please speak your mind." Chen Ning knew that if she said something good, the old man would not say anything and just leave. So she purposely gave a sad sigh. It really hooked the old man's appetite, making him unable to stop. "Old uncle, since you say it like this, then I'll speak my mind. The success word you're testing has a very good meaning. Success, your wishes will come true and you will become a great person. It's all because of this success word." There's also the phrase, "ride the clouds," which is also a homonym for this success word. So, your son will definitely have a great future. Chen Ning spoke clearly, and the old man listened attentively. He stroked his beard and couldn't help nodding with a faint smile. Who would have thought that Chen Ning's words would suddenly change? But this success word also has a bad point. "Old uncle, please take a look. It contains the word spear. It contains a hidden killing intent, as well as the meaning of war, so your son will have a bloody disaster. There's also another thing. The success word belongs to the metal element, and fire suppresses metal. Right now is the fire season in the 3rd month, so this is not good." The old man couldn't help giving a snort as a look of disbelief flashed across his face. Of course, Ning knew why the old man didn't believe her. It was because normal people like to hear good things and hated to hear bad things. Her eyes looked over the old man's face, and she softly said, "Old uncle, does your beloved son cry in the middle of the night every night? And when a rooster crows 5 times, does he stop crying and fall asleep?" The old man's brows couldn't help jumping up. He looked at Ning in shock and blurted out, "That's right. How do you know?" Ning calmly said, "This is the fire-restraining metal that I was talking about. The day is divided into 24 hours, with the fire at its strongest and the yin at its weakest. If I'm not wrong, you should have named your beloved son after this Chung character. He is restrained by fire, so he cries in the middle of the night, stopping at dawn." The old man stared at Ning, and the expression on his face could no longer be described with the word success. Originally, he had sat down to do the fortune-telling just to get some good luck. He wanted the other party to say a few auspicious words and then casually throw a few copper coins and leave. But when he heard the words bloody calamity, he was already inwardly furious. He felt that the other party was talking nonsense and was just a swindler trying to cheat him of his money. At that time, he was prepared to leave, but who would have thought that Ning's next words would shock him? She had described the scene of his beloved son crying every night, as if she had seen it with her own eyes. Ning said, Chapter 54. "Then I would like to ask, miss, do you have a way to resolve this?" The old man leaned forward and had a pleasant expression on his face. His tone and demeanor were completely different from before. Ning saw the change in him and revealed a faint smile. Naturally, there is a way to resolve it. After saying this, she closed her mouth and smiled without saying another word. The old man waited for a while, but Ning didn't say anything. He was stunned for a bit and then suddenly realized something. He patted his head and said, "Look at me, I'm really old and confused. I actually forgot the rules of this trade." He took out a bag of money from his chest and took out a white ingot of silver from the bag. He placed it on the table. Xiao Ru's eyes suddenly opened wide. This was a full 10 silvers. She never would have dreamed that this old man would be this generous after hearing a few words from her young miss. He would take out 10 silvers at once. Ning smiled as she picked up the silver and looked at it. Then she threw it into Xiao Ru's chest. No matter how Xiao Ru looked at that smiling appearance, it looked like the little fox that she had drawn on her face this morning. After taking the silver, Ning once again opened her mouth. She slowly picked up the pen and wrote the word earth on the paper. The old man looked at it and said with a blank face, "Miss, what does this mean?" Ning gave a faint smile and said, "Everything in the world is complementary and the 5 elements are the same. As long as you add the word earth to your beloved son's name, it will become extremely auspicious. If you add the word earth to the word Chung, it will become the word Chung. The will of the people will become a city, and it will be priceless. All of these are great auspicious numbers. Your beloved son will definitely have the help of a noble person in the future. He will become a minister, and his future will be limitless." This string of auspicious words made the old man's face light up. His 3 strands of beard floated up as he smiled and stood up. He cupped his hands to Ning and said, "I'll accept Miss' words. If my son's future is as limitless as Miss says, then this old man will first thank you for your divine foresight. This old man still has matters to attend to at home, so I'll be leaving first. Goodbye." He was now very satisfied. He felt that these 10 silvers were not spent in vain. As for whether his child would be able to live up to Ning's words in the future, becoming an official with a limitless future, that was something to be said later. However, Ning's words were all in his heart. Even if he had to spend money for good luck, he would be willing. The old man picked up the basket and prepared to leave. Ning suddenly called out to him, "Old man, your son cries every night. I have a way to make him sleep until the sun rises." "Really?" The old man's body trembled as he revealed an excited expression. Ning revealed a faint smile and said, "I've just said that soil makes metal, so you only need to feed him a bit of soil every night and he'll be able to sleep peacefully." "Eat dirt?" "Eat dirt. The old man couldn't help glaring at her. This divine fortune-telling girl's method was truly strange. She actually wanted his beloved son to eat dirt. Of course, you can't directly feed him dirt. You can pick up some dirt and mix it with water to feed him. That would be enough. Oh, then I'll have to thank Miss. The old man was still doubtful. He cupped his hands to Chun Ning again and left with the basket. When the old man couldn't even be seen, Xiao Ru came over to Chun Ning's side and asked in a small voice, "Young miss, was what you said just now true? You wouldn't be lying to him, right?" Chun Ning looked at Xiao Ru. "Do you think your young miss is a swindler?" She took the ingot of silver from Xiao Ru's hand and tossed it up and down. Her smile was so wide that only her teeth could be seen. Chapter 55. The largest and best restaurant in the capital was called Tai He Floor. When Chun Ning and Xiao Ru arrived at Tai He Floor, they found that this restaurant truly lived up to its name. Just from the outside, they could tell that it was very elegant. The customers that came in and out were either officials or nobles. They were all dressed in luxurious clothes and had an extraordinary aura. Xiao Ru saw this, and her heart felt weak. She secretly pulled on Chun Ning's sleeve and said in a small voice, "Young miss, why don't we go to another restaurant? This restaurant's food must be very expensive. We only have 10 silvers, so we don't have enough money to pay the bill after eating." Chun Ning waved her hand and said in an uncaring manner, "What are you afraid of? Since we're here, let's eat to our heart's content. Don't save money for your young miss." She boldly walked in. Although she was dressed in commoner's clothing, her bearing was not one bit inferior to those high-ranking officials and nobles who wore embroidered clothes. "Two esteemed guests, please come in. May I ask if you two want a private room upstairs, or—" As soon as they entered, a waiter came forward with a face full of hospitality, enthusiastically greeting them. Before he could finish, the waiter's words were stuck in his throat. He finally saw Chun Ning and Xiao Ru's clothes and couldn't help being stunned. He had worked at Tai He Floor for a long time, but this was the first time he had seen such poor, dressed people enter Tai He Floor. He couldn't help muttering in his heart, "Were these two beggars here to beg for food? Give us the best private room upstairs." When Chun Ning opened her mouth, Xiao Ru's chin almost fell off from shock. She began to give Chun Ning a meaningful look. Her meaning was that they only had 10 silvers, so why don't we just sit in the lobby downstairs? Chun Ning acted like she didn't see it. She smiled and repeated herself, "I want the best." The waiter hesitated for a bit. He felt that these two guests were not here to eat, but more like they were here to beg. "I'm really sorry, but the private rooms upstairs are all full. How about the two of you eat downstairs?" He said with a smile. "Full? I think you're the one looking down on us. Are you afraid that we can't eat at your Tai He Floor and are not worthy of sitting in your private rooms?" Chun Ning saw through the waiter's thoughts with a single glance. She put away the smile on her face and bluntly criticized him. The waiter's face couldn't help turning red. He secretly thought that these two girls were really trying to impress. They were dressed so shabbily. How could they afford to eat at Tai He Floor? "I'll say it again. Find us the best seats, and I'll reward you with this." Chun Ning took out the silver ingot and threw it into the hands of the waiter without even looking at it. Seeing this, her eyes to the waiter's chest. "Oh my God, this is 10 taels of silver." He had to work at the Tai He Floor for a full year to earn this amount of money, but this girl in front of him was casually giving it to others. It seems like in this day and age, you really can't judge a book by its cover. Yes, yes. "Two esteemed guests, please come upstairs." Xiao Ning. Shouted to Xiao Nings. Ru. Roop. Xiao up. Nings to Ru Xiao Ru. Tu was tu. She kept saying in her heart, "My good young miss, you're really generous. Giving us 10 silvers at once. That's all we have. We're so poor right now. What will we use to pay for the meal?" Her face turned into a bitter gourd. Chun Ning held her hand as they entered the private room on the second floor. Chapter 56. The waiter brought over the menu, and Chun Ning directly gave it to Xiao Ru. "Little girl, you order the dishes. Order whatever you want to eat. It's still the same words. Don't save money for your young miss." Xiao Ru had a crying face. Without looking at the menu, She pushed it back to Chun Ning. Young miss, this servant doesn't know how to read, so you should order. She said in her heart, what dishes are you ordering? Even if it's just plain bread, we can't afford it. Chun Ning smiled and said, all right, I'll order. Woo, I remember you saying last time that you wanted to eat lotus root boiled beef, scallion spare ribs, and, oh, that's right, chestnut roasted chicken. Xiaoru, did I remember correctly? You didn't remember incorrectly. Young Miss Memory is really good. Xiaoru dryly praised as she blinked at Chun Ning. Chun Ning giggled and said, waiter, other than those 3 dishes, we also want a jade shrimp, a mixed meat, and a lion's head with crab meat. She did not stop as she ordered the most expensive dishes on the menu. The waiter's smile was so wide that his eyes couldn't be seen. Yes. May I ask if these 2 esteemed guests would like some wine? Our store's Pear Blossom White is very famous in the capital city. It is sweet and fragrant, with an endless aftertaste. All the guests that come here love to drink it. Even the young misses of the rich and powerful families come to our store and ask for this Pear Blossom White. He eagerly recommended. Chun Ning became interested when she heard this. She slapped the table and said, all right, give me 3 pounds. The waiter left with a smile on his face. Xiaoru was so anxious that she began to sweat. Young miss, you've ordered all these expensive dishes. We won't have any money to pay the bill. What should we do? You don't have any money to pay the bill? Chun Ning looked at Xiaoru's face and giggled as she said, then I'll leave you here to wash the dishes. Young miss. Xiaoru's heart was filled with anxiety, and she almost cried. All right, I'm just teasing you. How could I bear to let my Xiaoru wash the dishes? When the dishes come, you can eat them without worry. As for the money to pay the bill, I have my own ways. Chun Ning had a very confident look on her face. Young miss, what methods do you have? Xiaoru was doubtful. Chun Ning smiled and did not reply. She had a mysterious look on her face. Xiaoru knew that as long as the young miss revealed this expression, she would not tell her. She could only sit down and hold her chin as she waited for the dishes to be served. That's right. Young miss, do you really know fortune-telling? We've never met that old man before. How could you tell at a glance that he had a son in his old age? Xiaoru had this question for a long, and she finally asked it. Hearing this, Chun Ning gave a gentle smile and tapped Xiaoru's nose. Stupid girl, do you remember what I told you before? Xiao, this servant does not know. Ning. Xiaoru said, and Xiao Ning Ning. Xiaoru. Miss, this servant Xiao Ning. Mississippi that in Rushi. She really didn't understand. This thing could talk. She say I Ning, she know. She Chun Ning Ning Ru. She really did not to say. Say. Li she say. She to say. To say. Ru Xiao to say. Xiaoru tilted her head and thought for a bit. Then she suddenly slapped her head and shouted, I remember. This servant took a look, and there were eggs in the basket. That's right, eggs. Chun Ning said with a smile. Do you remember what color the eggs were? Chapter 57. Stupid girl. Chun Ning reached out and tapped Xiaoru's head. It's not that you don't remember. It's that you didn't pay attention at all. As long as you look carefully, you'll find that it's a basket of red eggs. Tell me, why would an old man carry a basket of red eggs on the streets? I know this because there's a new child in the family. Xiaoru clapped her hands and shouted. After saying this, she suddenly realized something and said, oh, I understand now. Young miss, you guessed that he had a child at an old age based on the eggs. It was actually this simple. I really thought that young miss knew how to read fortunes. Chun Ning pursed her lips and said, there are many fortune tellers who use this method, so there's nothing strange about it. Xiaoru, if you learn how to observe, you'll be able to do it too. Then young miss, what you said about the blood disaster and eating dirt to stop crying, were they all true? Xiaoru scratched her head again. She was stunned at the time. If you believe it, then it's true. If you don't believe it, then it's fake. Chun Ning smiled and winked. She picked up her chopsticks and said, come, let's eat. While the 2 of them were talking, the dishes were brought over like a stream. They filled the table, and the fragrance filled the air. Xiaoru's saliva almost flowed out. She ate a piece of shrimp and then a piece of pork ribs. She felt that each dish was something she had never eaten before. When Ning saw this, she felt it was a little strange. In any case, she was the young miss of the Hu Guo Palace before she was married, and Xiao Ru was the maid of the original body. Could it be that she had never eaten these home-cooked dishes before? She searched through the memories of the original body and found that she really had never eaten them before. Not only Xiao Ru, even she, the young miss, only ate the crude food sent over from the kitchen every day. There was not a single bit of meat in the food. Of course, this was all because of her good stepmother, Madame Lin. She was not willing to think about the bitter past of the original body. She picked up her chopsticks and picked up a large piece of meat for Xiao Ru. She said with a smile, "This meat is the best. It's fragrant, but not greasy. It melts in your mouth. You'll definitely like it." Ning and Xiao Ru happily ate. They did not know that in the private room next to them, there was someone listening to their conversation. The black-clothed man sat in front of the table and drank slowly. There were only 4 dishes on the table, but each one was exquisite and expensive. The pear blossom wine in the pot emitted a sweet and intoxicating fragrance. He reclined in the chair and drank 1 cup after another. His demeanor was carefree and lazy. Behind him, there was a blue-clothed youth standing with his hands raised. While Xiao Ru was talking to the waiter, Xiao Ru, Xiao Ru, Xiao Ru, Xiao Ning, Xiao Xiao Ru Xiao Xiao, and Xiao Xiao Ru, Xiao Xiao Ru, Xiao 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 Xiao, and said. He remembered that he had turned the entire alley upside down, but he could not find even a trace of her and her servant. Hearing Chun Ning's voice at this time, he was filled with a pleasant surprise that came from searching far and wide. I shall, he, as he. Xiao Ru, on the other hand, was listening to the conversation in the private room. The expressions on his face were very rich. Hearing Xiao Ru whisper that they didn't have money to pay the bill, Xiao Si couldn't help but blurt out, "Master, they don't have money to eat. Do you want to—" Chapter 58. Xiao Si had already noticed that his master was interested in the older girl next door, and he had quite a bit of interest in her. This was because after following his master for so many years, she was the first girl that his master had taken the initiative to invite to a meal. Yesterday, when he had come back to report to his master that the 2 girls had disappeared, his master's face had been expressionless and he hadn't said a single word, but Xiao Si had felt the atmosphere freeze. It was like a gust of cold wind had blown across the ground, causing him to shiver from the cold. He realized that if he couldn't find that girl, he would leave a bad impression in his master's heart. But who would have thought that there would be such a coincidence today? The girl that he couldn't find would suddenly appear next door in the same restaurant, and she didn't have any money to pay the bill. This was a good opportunity to get close to her. But his master acted like he didn't hear anything. He just sat there and didn't even let out a fart. Xiao Si couldn't bear to let his master miss this kind of heaven-sent opportunity, so he reminded him. "Meddlesome." The black-clothed man's cold eyes flew over, and Xiao Si immediately closed his mouth. All right, since his master thought he was a meddlesome servant, then he wouldn't care. Looking at his master's taciturn personality, how could he talk to this girl? "Young miss, this Tai Floor's food is too delicious. This servant has never eaten such delicious food in my life. If we could eat this kind of good food every day, how happy would that be?" Xiao Ru gave a large burp. She licked her lips as she let out a sigh. She had eaten until her stomach was about to burst, but there was still a lot of food left. Ning revealed a smile. These dishes were indeed delicious, but she who came from the modern era had eaten even more delicious dishes than these. After all, times had changed and humans were constantly improving. The amount of thought and variety that the modern people put into food was something that the people of this era could not compare to. Compared to the food, she liked the wine here more. It was really like what the waiter had said. It was sweet and fragrant, leaving an endless aftertaste. After a few glasses of wine, she felt tipsy. Her cheeks were stained with a faint blush, but her eyes became even brighter. "Xiao Ru, are you full?" She giggled as she asked. I'm full. This servant's stomach is about to burst." Xiao Ru replied, but her face revealed a worried expression. She pulled on Chun Ning's sleeve and said in a small voice, "Young miss, we don't have any money to pay the bill. How about we find a chance to slip away?" Slip away? Tell me, how do we slip away? Chun Ning couldn't help but laugh as she asked. Xiaoru rolled her eyes and looked out the window. Her eyes lit up. "Why don't we jump out the window? This is the second floor. It's so high. Aren't you afraid of breaking your legs?" Chun Ning smiled as she looked out the window. This? Xiaoru was speechless. She anxiously grabbed her hair. Then what? Are we going to sit here and not pay the bill? Are we going to leave? Not only was Xiaoru worried, even Xiao Si next door was worried for them. He couldn't help but glance at his master, hoping that the black-clothed man would take the initiative to help them pay the bill. But the black-clothed man didn't even look at him, only minding his own business as he drank and ate leisurely. Hee hee, Chun Ning smiled. She suddenly raised her voice and shouted, "Waiter!" Chapter 59. Once she heard the word bill, Xiaoru's face turned white. Her little hand nervously grabbed onto Chun Ning's sleeve. Chun Ning calmly patted her hand and said to the waiter with a smile, "Your restaurant's dishes are not bad, but there are too few dishes, so it's not satisfying to eat." The waiter stuck out his tongue when he heard this. With a smile, he said, "Miss might not know, but our restaurant has over 200 different dishes. Out of all the restaurants in the capital, our restaurant has the most dishes and the taste is the best. Even the nobles, ministers, and even the royal family are full of praise after eating it." His words were filled with pride. Although he did not dare look down on Chun Ning and her servant after taking Chun Ning's money, when he heard her say that his restaurant's dishes were not good, his heart was not convinced and he couldn't help boasting. "Then I want to order 4 special dishes. I wonder if your chef can make them?" Chun Ning asked with a smile. "Miss, just order. As long as it's something that flies in the sky, runs on the ground, or swims in the water, my chef can make it. As long as it's something Miss can't order, there is nothing my chef can't make." The waiter patted his chest and confidently boasted, "Very good, then I can rest assured." Chun Ning's smile made Xiaoru's heart tremble seeing this. Every time she saw the young miss reveal this fox-like smile, someone would definitely be out of luck. But what Xiaoru did not understand was that they would be the ones out of luck because they didn't have any money to pay the bill. "Then I'll order something that flies in the sky, runs on the ground, and swims in the water. I'll order one of each. Woo, the last one will be a soup." Chun Ning leaned back in her chair and revealed a lazy look. "All right." The waiter heard that this was too simple and immediately agreed. He turned around to leave. "Wait a minute, waiter. I haven't finished speaking yet." Chun Ning called out to him. "What else does Miss want to order?" The waiter turned around with a smile and respectfully said. Chun Ning reached out a finger to her chin and slowly said, "The first dish is something that flies in the sky. A phoenix is a phoenix, so let's have a phoenix's nest. The second dish is something that runs on the ground. I want to try the eggs laid by the divine phoenix, so I'll have a phoenix egg. The third dish is something that swims in the water. It's spring right now, and the peach blossoms are flowing with water, so it's a good time to eat mandarin fish. I'll have a squirrel mandarin fish. As for the fourth soup, woo, it's much simpler. As long as it tastes good and sounds good, it's fine." WH. What? As Chun Ning spoke, the waiter's mouth was wide open. When she finished speaking, the waiter's mouth was wide enough to fit a phoenix egg. He had been a waiter in the Tai floor for many years, but this was the first time he had heard a customer order this kind of dish. This was the first time he had ever heard of such a thing. Phoenix's nest, phoenix eggs, and squirrel mandarin fish. He had not seen, he had never heard of before. Phoenix. As for the soup that tasted good, looked good, and sounded good, it was even more unimaginable. Did you not hear me clearly? Do you want me to tell you the names of the dishes again? Seeing the stunned look on the waiter's face, Chun Ning gently curled her lips and narrowed her eyes. I heard you clearly. The waiter finally managed to close his mouth with great difficulty. Chapter 60. Miss, the 4 dishes you ordered. It is impossible to make them. The phoenix is a divine bird from the heavens. This little one has never seen one before. So how could it be used to make dishes? This phoenix egg is even more impossible. As for the squirrel mandarin fish you ordered, this lowly one knows about mandarin fish. Our family chef has a unique skill called mandarin fish and soup. It's fresh and fragrant, and all the customers who have eaten it have praised it. But using squirrel mandarin fish to make mandarin fish, this is not right. And the soup you ordered, how could this soup look good, taste good, and sound good? This little one has lived for over 20 years and has never heard a soup that sounds good. Hey, miss, are you joking with this little one? The waiter said with a smile. Ning's face turned serious and her smile disappeared. She forcefully slapped the table and shouted, "Who is joking with you? You just boasted that anything that flies in the sky, runs on the ground, or swims in the water, your family's head chef is an expert at them all. Now you can't even make 4 normal dishes? If this gets out, your Thai floor's reputation will be smashed." The waiter's face turned bitter as he revealed an awkward expression. He had indeed boasted before, but who would have thought that the 4 dishes Ning ordered would be so strange? This was simply too difficult. "Miss, why don't you order another 4 dishes? These 4 dishes of yours are really. Can I make them, or can't I? Stop wasting time. Stop nagging and give me a straightforward answer." Ning impatiently knit her brows. This. The waiter stuttered. He did not need to go to the kitchen to know that the chefs in the kitchen would not be able to make them. "If you can't make them, then don't blame this miss for not paying. Xiaoru, let's go." Ning pulled Xiaoru up. "All right, so you want to eat for free. You're not allowed to leave." Only then did the waiter react. He immediately stretched out his arms to block the door. Ning gave a cold laugh. The dignified #1 restaurant in the capital city. What big words and how big of a bully you are. You can't even make the dishes the guests ordered, and you still have a nerve to take their money? Aren't you ashamed? She spoke in a righteous manner and with an awe-inspiring manner. She actually made the waiter speechless. Xiaoru looked at Ning with little stars in her eyes and her heart filled with worship. There was probably no one in this world who had a thicker face than the young miss, right? She could even eat for free in such a righteous manner. Xiao Si, who was eavesdropping next door, couldn't help but let out a laugh. Although the black-clothed man still had a frosty expression on his face, there was a hint of a smile in his eyes. The man's slender fingers rubbed the smooth glass of the cup. The man's slender fingers caressed the smooth surface of the glass, and the light of interest in his eyes could not be concealed. "You're deliberately making things difficult for me." The waiter shouted angrily with his hands on his hips. "What phoenix's nest and phoenix egg are you talking about? What kind of soup was that? How could there be such a thing in the world? If you don't pay the bill today, don't even think about taking half a step out of the floor of supreme harmony." He turned around and shouted at the people downstairs, "Someone come quickly. There is someone here who doesn't pay." After a while, the sound of people coming from the stairs could be heard. Several burly men came in with kitchen knives and fire sticks in their hands. Their faces were filled with killing intent as they charged in. "Who is the one that doesn't pay?" Chapter 61. The man's left and right hands each held a pig slaughtering knife. The knife's tip was as bright as snow as it danced around. "It's these 2 girls." The waiter pointed at Ning and Xiaoru. "You guys aren't paying for your meal." The large man aggressively stepped forward. He grinded the 2 pig slaughtering knives together, making a sound like his teeth were aching. Xiaoru couldn't help letting out a scream. Her body began to tremble as she closed her eyes, not daring to look at him. "Stop being so fierce and scaring this little girl. Stand further away. You smell like excrement. Are you a manure digger in the backyard?" Ning revealed a look of disgust as she knit her brows and covered her nose. The large man's face couldn't help turning red. How did this girl know that he was a manure digger? Why do you care who father is? If you don't pay for your meal today, then don't think about leaving our Thai floor. He shouted. "Who said we aren't paying for our meal?" Ning rolled her eyes at the waiter and said with a cold smile, "It was this waiter who was bragging. He said that as long as I ordered a dish, your restaurant will be able to make it. In the end, I ordered it, but he refused to make it. I didn't ruin your Thai floor's reputation, which is already very polite. You actually have the nerve to ask me for money? Is there such a logic in this world? When the group of men heard this, they all felt that Chen Ning's words were reasonable. They couldn't help nodding their heads. The waiter anxiously pointed at Chen Ning and shouted, "Don't listen to her words. I've never heard of the 4 dishes she ordered before. How could the head chef make them? There is no one in this world that can make them. She's obviously here to freeload. There is no one in this world that can make them?" Chen Ning countered with a question. "If I said that someone can make those 4 dishes, what would you do?" "Absolutely impossible," the waiter said without even thinking. Hey, you're just a waiter. You can't make the decision. Call the Tai He Floor's shopkeeper out. This miss wants to talk to him face to face." "All right, then I'll call the shopkeeper out. You just wait. When our shopkeeper comes, you'll have a good time." The waiter ran off. Xiaoru saw that this matter was getting bigger and bigger. Her forehead was covered in sweat, especially when she saw those fierce-looking men blocking the door. She didn't even have a chance to escape. She wanted to cry, but she couldn't. The young miss had poked a hornet's nest this time. What should she do? Chen Ning calmly said, "Xiaoru, this pear blossom white is very good. Do you want to drink a cup?" She smiled as she gave Xiaoru a cup of wine. Xiaoru's cheeks puffed up as she stared at Chen Ning. She could not understand why the young miss could still smile in this kind of desperate situation. "It's fine if you don's ass. If I's in an end, I drink is, and is I will. She and she as she as, and she as she. She as she, as she, and she. She, Ning. She shall she, and she. She, and she. Ning. Who says I'm going to run?" Chen Ning giggled as she raised her cup and drank it all in one gulp. "I still have to wait for the shopkeeper to come and let him judge." The large men gave a cold laugh in their hearts. With them guarding this place, did she still want to run? Chapter 62. The sound of footsteps came from the stairs again, heading straight for Chen Ning's room. "Shopkeeper, it's these 2 girls who aren't paying for their meal." The waiter let a 40-year-old middle-aged man in and pointed at Chen Ning and Xiaoru as he spoke. That middle-aged man was a bit chubby and had an extraordinary aura. Although he had heard from the waiter that there were people who didn't pay for their meal and that Chen Ning and Xiaoru were 2 young girls, he still cupped his hands and politely greeted them. "Young ladies, are you having some trouble with your hands?" His Tai He Floor was the #1 restaurant in the capital. As a shopkeeper of Tai He Floor, of course he understood the logic of making money. Although he knew that the other side was eating for free, he still politely gave them a way out. Just this kind of attitude was enough to make people look at him in a different light. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile and shook her head in denial. "It's very convenient for us." "Shopkeeper, don't listen to the waiter's words. We definitely did not come to your restaurant to eat for free." "Oh." The shopkeeper was stunned when he heard this and looked at the waiter. The waiter quickly explained, "Shopkeeper, this little one is not lying. They ordered a table full of dishes and didn't want to pay the bill before leaving. It's clear that they want to eat for free. Look at how poor they are. It doesn't seem like they can pay the bill." Chen Ning gave a cold laugh and said, "You're just judging people by their appearance. You have eyes but can't see. If we don't have money to pay the bill, where did the 10 silver coins in your pocket come from?" The waiter's face turned red and he stuttered, This is what you gave me." "That's right. I even gave 10 silver coins to a waiter. Would I eat for free? Do you believe me?" Chen Ning looked up and confidently looked at the people around her. Of course they didn't believe it. If they said that this kind of generous customer didn't have money to pay the bill, that would be the biggest joke in the world. Everyone present had the same thought. The shopkeeper's face sunk. "Waiter, how did you offend these 2 girls?" His voice was very strict, and he didn't show any anger. "Shopkeeper, this little one doesn't dare." The waiter was covered in cold sweat, and his heart was filled with regret. This girl's mouth was too powerful. She was able to turn black into white. Even the shopkeeper didn't believe his own words. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have accepted the 10 silver coins. Even if he had 100 mouths, he still wouldn't be able to explain himself. "Waiter, hurry up and apologize to these 2 esteemed guests." The innkeeper shouted again. The waiter felt wronged, but he did not dare disobey the shopkeeper's orders. He could only bitterly apologize to Chen Ning and Xiao Ru. I have eyes but failed to see. I have offended the two ladies. Please be magnanimous and forgive me. Forget it, this little one will. Chen Ning revealed a natural smile and cupped her hands to the shopkeeper. It is the shopkeeper who is reasonable and able to distinguish right from wrong. Since the misunderstanding has been cleared up, we will be leaving. The innkeeper nodded with a smile and said, "It is rare for you to be so magnanimous. I hope you will come to our restaurant again next time." I will. Chen Ning nodded with a smile. She grabbed Xiao Ru's hand and walked out the door. The few men who were blocking the entrance hurriedly put away their weapons and made way for the two of them. Chapter 63. Xiao Ru was an honest person. She couldn't help pulling on Chen Ning's sleeve and asking, "Young miss, have we not paid yet?" Hearing this, Chen Ning almost fainted from anger. She stared at Xiao Ru, wishing she could take a needle and sew this stupid girl's mouth shut. Xiao Ru, no one will think you're mute if you don't speak. She sighed in her heart. Just now, when she had interrogated the waiter in front of everyone, she had used a loophole in psychology. She had used one thing to negate another thing that was not related. Even a knowledgeable Tai He floor shopkeeper had not realized it and had been fooled by her. That was why he had been fooled and let them leave. But now that she had been reminded by Xiao Ru, Chen Ning knew that they would not be able to leave smoothly. Sure enough, when the two of them reached the door, they heard the waiter call out, "Shopkeeper, don't let them go. They haven't paid for their meal yet." When the large men heard this, they immediately blocked the door again. The shopkeeper looked at the leftover food on the table and understood in his heart. He couldn't help giving a cold laugh. So the two girls haven't paid for their meal yet. Since the girls say that it's convenient, then please pay for your meal before you leave. The two of you even gave the waiter 10 silvers at once. It can't be that you don't have money to pay for your meal, right? His voice was filled with ridicule, but his heart was filled with shame. Even though he thought he was smart, he had almost failed miserably today. He had been tricked by a 15 or 16-year-old girl who said, "We don't have money to pay for our meal." We have money. Xiao Ru's face turned red as she spoke. She did not dare look at Chen Ning. She knew that she had made a mistake. She was so regretful that she wanted to bite off her own tongue. Since you have money, then quickly take it out to pay for your meal. If you don't have money, don't blame me for sending you to the authorities. The shopkeeper gave a cold laugh. The surrounding diners who were watching the commotion also understood. It turned out that these two girls were really freeloaders. Young girls can't learn anything, but you actually learn to be a swindler and freeloader. That's right. The world's morals are getting worse by the day. The crowd's accusations and ridicule came one after another. Xiao Ru was so embarrassed that she wanted to hide under the table. She hated herself to death right now. Why couldn't she control her tongue? She had caused the young miss to be ridiculed by others. Who says these two girls don't have money to pay for their meal? Is this gold ingot enough? If it isn't, then add another ingot. Amidst the crowd's accusations and mocking laughter, a young man in green parted the crowd and led a tall man in black into the hall. The black-clothed man's face was expressionless, but he raised his hand, and a glistening gold ingot fell on the table in front of the shopkeeper with a clang. Xiao. Wu Xiao. The black-clothed man had been listening for a long time and waiting for a long time. He had not made a move because he was waiting for a chance. When Chen Ning was surrounded on all sides, he would make a move. Only then could he amaze the world with a single brilliant feat and leave a deep impression in her heart. Ning. Xiao Ning hat. Xiao Ru was pleasantly surprised. She pulled on Chen Ning's sleeve. "Young miss, it's him." Chen Ning looked at the black-clothed man, and her eyebrows slightly knit together. Chapter 64. It's enough. The shopkeeper picked up the gold ingot and knew that it was real gold. It couldn't be faked. He revealed a smile on his face. So these two girls are this honored guest's friends. I've been disrespectful. I've been disrespectful. The bystanders were all envious of Chun Ning's good luck. She had actually made such generous friends. Shopkeeper, please return the gold to this guest. I don't know him, and I'm not his friend. The food in my stomach. I don't need anyone else to pay for me. Chun Ning suddenly cleared her throat and said. Her voice was very clear. As soon as her words fell, there was a gasp from the surrounding people. Everyone looked at her like she was an idiot. They were all wondering if this girl was an idiot. Someone was paying for her, and she didn't appreciate it? Xiao Si and Xiao Ru's jaws dropped. They did not dare believe their ears. Even in his dreams, the black-robed man had never imagined that his good intentions would be met with a rebuff. His two thick eyebrows slowly came up, and his deep dark eyes stared right at Chun Ning, like he wanted to see through her. Chun Ning was shocked. She was shocked. The shopkeeper held the gold ingot with his mouth wide open, not knowing what to do as he looked at Chun Ning. Chun Ning did not even look at the black-clothed man. She took a step forward and took the gold ingot from the shopkeeper's hand, throwing it to Xiao Si. Xiao Si subconsciously caught it and immediately received a cold stare from his master. His body trembled in fear, and the gold ingot in his hand almost fell off and hit his toes. He looked at Chun Ning with a bitter face. He could not understand why this girl didn't throw the gold ingot to his master and instead threw it to him. This was clearly trying to kill him. Although the black-clothed man did not say a single word, Xiao Si understood that his master's anger was like a giant wave that could explode at any moment. When that time came, the first person to suffer would be him. Miss, since you say that you don't need this honored guest to pay for you, then this miss can pay for it herself. The shopkeeper saw the gold ingot fly away, and his heart filled with pain. His attitude towards Chun Ning became even more impolite. What's the rush to pay? I'm not full yet. Once I'm full, I'll naturally pay for it. Facing everyone's questioning gazes, Chun Ning calmly sat down and smiled at the shopkeeper. Shopkeeper, I just heard the waiter say that your Taihe floor chef is very skilled. Whether it's food that flies in the sky, runs on the ground, or swims in the water, he is very good at it. Is this true? The shopkeeper replied without thinking. Of course it's true. Our Taihe floor chef can make any dish. There are only dishes that the customer can't order, but there isn't anything that the chef can't make. He wasn't boasting, but everyone knew that his family's restaurant had a wide variety of dishes and was second to none in the capital. Perhaps even the dishes in the imperial kitchen couldn't compare to his family's. Very good. Chun Ning was waiting for him to say this. Her eyes swept over the surrounding crowd, and she slowly said, You are the shopkeeper of the Taihe floor. Your words are like water that has been spilled. You can't take them back. There are so many guests here, and everyone can bear witness. Chapter 65. The waiter had an awkward look on his face. He wanted to remind the shopkeeper not to boast, but how could the shopkeeper understand his subtle hint? Instead, he was scolding him right to his face. He lowered his head and pretended to be mute, not making a single sound. Who would have thought that even if he pretended to be mute, Chun Ning would not let him go? It's still the shopkeeper who is straightforward. Chun Ning looked over at the silent waiter and said with a smile, Your waiter said the same thing as you, so I ordered 4 dishes. They were flying in the sky, running on the ground, and swimming in the water. I also ordered a simple soup, but the waiter kept saying that they didn't have it. Could it be that the #1 restaurant in the capital can't even make 4 normal dishes? It was clearly the restaurant bullying the customers, so this miss was angry and wanted to leave with the maid. Who would have thought that the waiter would be so picky and accuse us of not paying for our meal, saying that we were eating for free? Shopkeeper, you should be the judge of this. Her words were clear, her voice was clear, and her words were clear. When everyone heard this, they were filled with dissatisfaction towards the waiter. So it's like this, then it's all the waiter's fault. The shopkeeper's face sunk, and he reprimanded the waiter. The customer has ordered. How can you say that they don't have it? Have you forgotten the rules of this restaurant? Do you still want to work in our Taihe floor? The waiter looked at Chun Ning with a crying face. He thought that this girl's mouth was very powerful. She could even make the dead come back to life. If he knew this earlier, he would not have dared to provoke her in the first place. As a result, he was now suffering in silence, unable to voice out his bitterness. His heart was filled with grievance. "Shopkeeper, it's not like this, it's like this. No, it's not like this, it's like that." His heart was filled with anxiety, and he stuttered even more. "What is this and that?" The shopkeeper impatiently cut him off and shouted, "What 4 dishes did the customer order? Why aren't you telling the chef to make them?" The waiter did not dare agree. He blinked his eyes at the shopkeeper. "Shopkeeper, it's not that this little one doesn't want to go, but the 4 dishes this girl ordered. This little one has never heard of them before. Our chef will not be able to make them." When the shopkeeper heard this, he was filled with anger. This brat actually said that he could not make the dishes the customer ordered in front of everyone. Wasn't this just throwing away his face? He raised his foot at the waiter and shouted, "Is there anything in this world that our Tai He Floor's chef can't make? You brat, you're speaking nonsense. Quickly, quickly." The waiter's butt was kicked, and he said in a grieved voice, "Shopkeeper, you might not know, but the 4 dishes this girl ordered, the one that flies in the sky. She said that the phoenix is a divine bird in the sky, so she wants to eat phoenix meat. She even named the dish the phoenix's nest. This little one has lived for so long, but I have never seen a phoenix before. Also, the one that runs on the ground, she wants the phoenix's egg. The one that swims in the water, she wants some squirrel and mandarin fish, and the strangest thing is the soup she wants. Not only does it taste good, it also sounds good. Shopkeeper, don't you think she's deliberately making it hard for people? How can there be anyone in this world that can make these 4 dishes? What? Phoenix's nest, phoenix eggs, squirrel and mandarin fish, and a soup that tastes good and sounds good?" Everyone's eyes popped out when they heard this. They thought that this matter couldn't be blamed on the waiter. It was clearly this little girl who was deliberately making it hard for them. Chapter 66. Once the shopkeeper heard this, he knew that he had wronged the waiter. His eyes turned cold as he looked at Chen Ning. "Which family sent you here to cause trouble for my Tai He Floor? If you want to smash my restaurant signboard, then go back and tell the person behind you that there's no way." The shopkeeper's face turned livid as he forcefully slammed the table. A tall tree attracts the wind. Tai He Floor was known as the #1 restaurant in the capital, and there were several other restaurants that didn't accept this. They had already been secretly preparing to steal the name of the #1 restaurant in the capital. So the shopkeeper immediately concluded that Chen Ning and her servant were sent by another restaurant to cause trouble. They wanted to smash his Tai He Floor's signboard in front of everyone. "Shopkeeper, what you're saying is wrong, right? I came to your Tai He Floor to order food, but you're saying that I'm deliberately looking for trouble and that a guest can't even order food? When did Tai He Floor have this kind of rule?" Chen Ning blinked her eyes. "It's not that you can't, it's just that the 4 dishes you ordered are too much. I believe that not only the head chef of this restaurant can't make them, even the royal chefs of the royal palace can't make them. If someone can make these 4 dishes, then I will smash the signboard of Tai He Floor." The shopkeeper's face sank as he arrogantly said, "Io, the shopkeeper is angry? Do you think that I'm purposely looking for trouble and that I don't want to pay for my meal?" Chen Ning pursed her lips into a smile. Was it not? Everyone in the crowd asked this question in their hearts. Even the black-clothed man and Xiao Si were no exception. Wasn't this the lice on a monk's head? It was obvious. Humph! The shopkeeper gave a heavy snort, giving her a silent approval. "If I say that I have a way to make these 4 dishes, then what?" Chen Ning was not angry as she continued to speak with a smile. "If you can make them, then I won't take a single cent from your meal, and I'll even give you 1,000 silver coins." The shopkeeper gave a cold laugh. His expression clearly showed that he did not believe her at all. "All right, I'll earn 1,000 silver coins from you today. Bring out a pen and paper." Chen Ning arrogantly sat down on a chair. "Pen and paper?" Everyone was stunned for a moment before they began to laugh at Chen Ning. This girl has been boasting all day, but in the end, she was just talking on paper. Isn't that so? I thought that she really had the ability to make those phoenix dishes. In the end, she's just a swindler. When the shopkeeper heard everyone ridiculing Chen Ning, he began to give a cold laugh. He ordered the waiter, Didn't you hear what this divine chef said? Hurry up and give me a pen and paper. Miss Divine Chef is going to show us her skills. The mockery in his voice could not be any thicker. Everyone heard this, and they broke out a laugh. Xiao Ru's heart was filled with sadness as tears began to fall from her eyes. Speaking of which, it was all her fault for being too talkative. In the end, she caused the young miss to be mocked and ridiculed by so many people. It was all her fault. He Xiao. Xiao he Ning. Xiao. Xiao and Xiao was. Master. Chen Ning used her hand to support her chin. Her clear as water eyes looked at the people mocking her. She had a smile on her face, as if everything they said was praising her. Chen Ning used her hand to support her chin, and her clear as water eyes looked at the people who were mocking her. She had a smile on her face, as if they were all praising her with words. Chapter 67. The black-clothed man's heart was in a very bad mood. He couldn't help rubbing his tall nose. He couldn't understand how he had offended this girl. Why did she not like him at all? Was it because he had thrown 50 silver coins to that swindler the first time they met? Now he had left the impression of a rich fool in her heart, and he would never be able to make a comeback? Divine Chef Girl, the pen and paper are here. Please show us your skills. The waiter came in with the pen and paper. He placed it in front of Chun Ning, and the corner of his lips curled up in ridicule. Everyone was laughing at Chun Ning's misfortune, preparing to see Chun Ning make a fool of herself. Chun Ning calmly picked up the pen and turned her back to everyone as she began to write. Everyone could only see her waving her hand and not see what she was writing on the paper, but this did not stop them from continuing to laugh at Chun Ning. What cooking? So it's a painting. I've seen a joke in a book before. It's called drawing cakes to satisfy one's hunger. Today I've seen it for real, ha. Everyone should open your eyes wide and watch carefully. Who knows if a phoenix will fly down from the paper? Everyone pointed at her and laughed nonstop. The shopkeeper thought the same as everyone else. He was sure that Chun Ning was drawing the 4 dishes. He had prepared a stomach full of words and was prepared to fiercely criticize her when she took out the painting. Chun Ning put down the pen and looked at it. She picked up a corner and blew the ink dry before handing it over to the shopkeeper. Shopkeeper, do you think this piece of paper is worth 1,000 silver coins? She curled up the corners of her lips and smiled calmly. Everyone's eyes opened wide as they looked at the paper. They saw that the paper was filled with words, but it wasn't a painting. They were thinking in their hearts, this girl really knows how to brag. Even a piece of paper with words on it was worth 1,000 silver coins? Even the famous calligraphy in the capital city that even the emperor praised, Sir Zhang's calligraphy, was only worth 1,000 silver coins. The shopkeeper took the piece of paper with a look of disdain and snorted. His eyes were filled with disdain as he glanced at it disapprovingly. Sweeping over it, his expression suddenly changed. He went from being careless to being completely focused. His eyes did not even blink as he stared at the paper. It was as if what was written on the paper was not words, but rather a flower. Everyone began to feel strange. They stretched their necks, wanting to see what was written on the paper. But the shopkeeper turned around, blocking everyone's line of sight. They could only see the expression on his face becoming more and more excited. In the end, he was so excited that his hands were trembling. He tightly grasped the thin piece of paper as if it was a treasure that had fallen from the sky. Waiter, quickly instruct the cashier to bring 1,000 taels of silver over and give it to this lady. He shouted without thinking. He did not finish reading the words on the piece of paper. He hurriedly folded it and put it in his bosom. He even looked left and right for fear that someone would covet it. The surrounding people were all curious to death. What was written on that piece of paper that actually made the shopkeeper take out 1,000 taels of silver without hesitation? The shopkeeper's chin almost fell to the ground as he doubted his ears. Chapter 68. The waiter seemed like he had just woken up from a dream. He rubbed his butt as he walked out, but he was suddenly stopped by Chun Ning. Wait a minute, shopkeeper. 1,000 silver coins is too heavy. Why don't you change it into silver bills for me? Chun Ning said with a smile. All right, No problem. Whatever the young miss says, it is. The shopkeeper went from arrogant to respectful as he nodded and bowed to Chen Ning. The waiter was stunned seeing this. Was this person with a face full of flattery really his shopkeeper? This 1,000 silver coins are all Huifeng Money House's silver bills. They are the real deal, and we do not cheat anyone. Young miss, please take a look. The shopkeeper smiled until his eyes turned into slits. He held the thick stack of silver bills and respectfully presented it to Chen Ning with both hands. Chen Ning reached out to take it and gave it to Xiao Ru. With a generous smile, she said, "There's no need to count it. I believe the shopkeeper won't lie to me. Now that we're done, we can leave, is that okay?" She glanced at the few fierce-looking men blocking the door. "Of course it's okay. You blind waste. Why aren't you moving out of the way for me? Don't block the path of these two girls. 2 girls, please." The shopkeeper immediately understood and scolded the large men. He personally led the way and sent Chen Ning and Xiao Ru away. The remaining people watching the show all had their jaws drop to the ground. Even in their dreams, they never would have thought that the final result would be like this. Interesting, it really was interesting. The black-clothed man stood in the same place. His face was still expressionless, but there was a faint smile that flashed in his deep black eyes. Although that smile was so faint that it couldn't even be seen, Xiao Xi's sharp eyes could still see it. "Xiao Xi, follow them." The man's voice was very calm. It was impossible to tell if he was happy or angry. "Yes, master." Xiao Xi immediately understood that his master wanted him to find out where these 2 girls lived and where they came from. He ran away as fast as a rabbit. This was a good chance to make up for his mistake. If he lost them again, he wouldn't have the face to go back and see his master. Chen Ning held Xiao Ru's hand and walked out of the main entrance of the Taihe floor. After passing through 2 streets, Xiao Ru still had a dreamy expression on her face. "Young miss, pinch me hard. I feel like I'm dreaming." "That's right, I must be dreaming." Her bosom was bulging with banknotes, and her arms were tightly folded in front of her chest. Her face revealed an infatuated smile. Chen Ning stopped walking and looked at her. She found it both funny and funny. Wasn't it just 1,000 taels banknote? She didn't even put it in her eyes. Was there a need for this girl to be so happy like a fool? No, she had to cure this girl's shallow eyelids. Chen Ning's eyes turned, and she had already thought of a good idea. When she was about to pull Xiao Ru over to carry it out, she glanced over and saw a figure flash behind her. Although the figure was very fast, Chen Ning could still recognize it with a single glance. She. It was the up. He saw. He must have been ordered by his master to follow him here. A deep as ink gaze appeared in Chen Ning's mind. It was the black-clothed man. In the restaurant, although she did not look at him, she knew that he was looking at her. He was looking at her with a curious gaze. Chen Ning could not understand what she had done to arouse this man's interest. Was it because she had jokingly called him a stupid person with a lot of money? She did not know him, but he had suddenly appeared to help her. Chen Ning did not want to accept his good intentions at all. Chapter 69. This is really strange. How long have they been in there? Why haven't they come out yet? The blue-clothed youth Xiao Xi muttered. He was guarding in an inconspicuous corner, his eyes fixed on a clothing store diagonally across from him. This store's business was very good, with many people coming in and out. There were men and women, young and old. He was afraid that if he blinked, he would miss something. 2 hours ago, he had seen Chen Ning and Xiao Ru laughing and talking as they walked into this store. Then he stood there, not daring to blink, but he did not see the 2 of them come out. If he did not know that this clothing store only had a front door and no back door, he would have thought that Chen Ning and Xiao Ru had left through the back door. He stared until his eyes were sore and his legs were weak, but he still did not see the 2 of them come out. When the store closed and the boss came out to close the door, Xiao Xi finally couldn't help rushing over. "Don't close it! Don't close it! There are still 2 girls inside that haven't come out yet." He shouted, Go, go, go. Where did this brat come from, actually coming here to find girls? This is a clothing store. If you want to find girls, go to the Red Joy building across the street. The boss pushed Xiao Si to the side and continued to close the door. Xiao Si was anxious as he charged into the store. The boss could not stop him as he angrily glared at him. There was not a single person in the store. Xiao Si looked around twice and scratched his head in confusion. Where did they go? Why did they disappear? Just like last time, he had clearly seen the two of them walk into an alley, but when he chased after them, the two girls had disappeared without a trace. This was exactly the same as last time. Could it be that these two girls were not mortals? If they weren't immortals, then they were ghosts. Xiao Si suddenly gave a cold shiver. Stinky brat, are you here to cause trouble? You're so young, yet you don't learn good things. Actually coming to a clothing store to find girls. Why aren't you scramming for me? The boss grabbed Xiao Si's collar. Boss, I'm here to find two good girls, not the kind of girls you're talking about. There were two girls that clearly came in an hour ago, but they still haven't come out. They are a master and a servant. One girl is a bit older and one girl is a bit younger. One girl is this tall and the other girl is this short. Xiao Si was anxious as he described the appearance of Chun Ning and her servant. But his eloquence was really not that great. Adding on the fact that there were many people coming and going from the boutique, how could the boss remember, seeing that he was still calling Xiao Si a lady? He picked up the door and kicked him out. He chased Xiao Si out of the door before angrily turning back into the shop and slamming the door shut. See, father doesn't have girls here. Xiao Si's nose was almost flattened. He stared at the tightly shut shop door and wanted to cry, but had no tears. It was over. He had messed up the task that his master had given him. How could he still have the face to report back to his master? What he couldn't understand was that the two girls had disappeared into thin air again. Could it be that they had escaped into the sky? Of course, Chen Ning was not an immortal, nor was she a monster. She did not have the ability to fly into the sky or escape into the earth. After discovering that Xiao Si was secretly following her, she brought Xiao Ru into a clothing store. She picked out a set of men's clothes for herself and found a scholar's scarf. After putting it on, she looked into the mirror, looking like a young scholar. Chapter 70. Xiao Ru had never seen this kind of bright color dress before. Her face turned red and she refused to wear it, so Chen Ning forced her to wear it. The beautiful red dress was like a beautiful scenery. As soon as Xiao Ru appeared on the street, she immediately became the focus of everyone's attention. Xiao Ru's face was the same color as her dress, and she was too embarrassed to raise her head. Chen Ning held Xiao Ru's hand and walked past Xiao Si like this, slipping away. When they walked past, Xiao Si's eyes couldn't help falling onto Xiao Ru's red dress. He muttered, "Such a bright red dress." He did not look at Chen Ning and her servant again as he stretched his neck to look at the entrance of the clothing store. He never would have thought that Chen Ning would change her appearance. The young man and woman wearing bright-colored clothes that walked past him were the targets he was following. After Chen Ning was sure that she had thrown off Xiao Si, she brought Xiao Ru back to the King Ding Yuan Palace without anyone noticing. Today's harvest was quite good. After they returned to the little courtyard, Xiao Ru placed the silver bills on the bed and counted them until her hands were cramping. "Eldest miss, what was written on that piece of paper of yours? Why did the shopkeeper give you 1,000 taels of silver without batting an eye? And he didn't even take the money for the meal?" After Xiao Ru hid the silver bills, she finally remembered the question that she had been ignoring this whole time. When Chen Ning was writing on the paper, although she was standing beside Chen Ning, she didn't know how to read. Even if she saw it, she wouldn't have understood it. "Actually, it's nothing. It's just a recipe," Chen Ning casually said. "Recipe? Could it be the recipe for the 4 dishes young miss was talking about?" Xiao Ru's eyes opened wide. "That's right." Chen Ning nodded with a smile. "Can you really make those 4 dishes? It's not something young miss made up to deceive people." Chen Ning knocked on Xiao Ru's head and scolded with a smile. "When have you ever seen me deceive people?" Xiao Ru was stunned and couldn't answer. She tilted her head and thought about it. The young miss did not seem to have deceived anyone, but it seemed like she was deceiving people everywhere, especially when she smiled like a fox. She always had a feeling that someone was going to suffer. "That's right, young miss. That lots of money clearly took out the gold to pay for us. Why didn't you accept it? Xiaoru thought about it and asked. Chuning's face sunk when she heard this. Xiaoru, of course, remember, although we are women, we still need to live with integrity. That lots of money is not related to us, so why should we accept his gold? As the saying goes, a gentleman loves money, but he gets it in the right way. I do like money, but I only like money that I earn with my own abilities. That way, I can spend it with confidence. Do you understand? Xiaoru's face was filled with shame as she lowered her head and said, Young miss, this servant was wrong. Ning patted her shoulder and said with a smile, You didn't do anything wrong. It's like the money in those cheap men's pockets. We should think of a way to help them spend it. Ning blinked as she looked at Ning. She felt like the young miss had turned into a fox again. Ning called Chun Tao and Xiaohi over and asked, While I wasn't in the palace today, was there any news? The two maids looked at each other and bit their lips, not daring to say anything. If you have anything to say, then say it. Even if the sky falls, this princess will be here for you. Ning shouted. When the two of them heard this, their hearts filled with confidence. Chapter 71. Ning said in a strange voice, It will make my heart sad? What is it? His Highness has given a strict order to not let any doctor into the palace to treat you, and no one is allowed to visit you. He said that he wants you to fend for yourself. Xiaohi stopped, not daring to say anything else. She secretly looked at Ning's face. When she and Chun Tao heard this news, they couldn't help feeling sad for Ning. Although they knew that His Highness did not like the princess, they never thought that he would not like her to this degree. This was the same as forcing the princess to her death. It was a good thing that the princess was not injured. If she had been punished by the family, she would have been heartbroken after hearing this news. Even if she didn't die from the pain, she would die from the pain. Who would have thought that Xiaohi would not see a single trace of sadness on Ning's face? Rather, she slightly curled her lips and revealed a smile. Oh, I'm fending for myself? Ning said with a smile. She didn't even need to think to know that for Chu Xiaoyang to say these words, it must be because Chun Baiyun had given her quite a bit of medicine in front of Chu Xiaoyang, giving him quite a bit of pillow talk. It seemed like her good little sister would not give up until she reached the Yellow River. If she didn't die for a day, perhaps Chun Baiyun would not be able to sleep peacefully. Ning could not understand. What kind of deep hatred did she have with her half-sister that she would want her life? For a man, was it worth it? She really wanted to loudly tell Chun Baiyun that the man she treated as a treasure, she did not care about him at all. Whoever wanted him could have him. But in order to obtain this man, Chun Baiyun had tried to harm her again and again. She had already touched her bottom line. If it wasn't for the fact that Chun Baiyun was pregnant, she would have let her go in the wedding hall. Otherwise, Chun Baiyun would not be able to bear the consequences right now. She would make Chun Baiyun pay the price in blood for her actions. This was really a case of people not harming the tiger, but the tiger harming people. Ning revealed a taunting smile. Xiaohi, help me get something. The other side had already tried to take her life again and again. If she did not retaliate, wouldn't she be letting this cheap man and woman roam free? Yes, princess. What do you want? Xiaohi was a bit nervous. I want a recipe for tomorrow's breakfast for Chu Xiaoyang and his concubine. The more detail, the better. Baihe, can you do this? Xiaohi let out a sigh of relief. It can be done. Princess, this servant will go. She was really worried that the princess consort would ask her to make some arsenic poison. Even if she had 100 times more courage, she wouldn't dare do it. The cookbook came back with a long list. There were more than 30 exquisite dishes, as well as all kinds of porridge and desserts. Xiaoru sucked in a cold breath. Your Highness and the second miss eat this much for breakfast? Xiao. Thinking of the porridge and side dishes she had with eldest miss, she curled her lips indignantly. Xiaohi said, I've heard that after the concubine consort became pregnant, His Highness doted on her even more. He ordered the kitchen staff to make different dishes for every meal. Ning nodded. With just a glance, she remembered everything in her heart. Chen Ning. Chen Xiaoning. the Chun-Li and looked. Chun Tao and Xia He both said, "This servant can make it. Does the princess consort want to eat?" Chen Ning said with a smile, "All right, but I've eaten too many normal water chestnut cakes, so I don't have much of an appetite. If I add half of the chestnut powder to the water chestnut cake, it will be fragrant and delicious. You should make a bit more, and we can all eat it." Chen Ning smiled and said, "All right, but I've eaten too many normal water chestnut cakes, so I don't have much of an appetite. If I add half of the chestnut powder to the water chestnut cake, the chestnut water chestnut cake will be fragrant and delicious. You guys should make a bit more, and we can all share it." Chapter 72. Xiao Ru's eyes were wide open as she looked at Chen Ning with a puzzled expression. Although she could not guess what the young miss was playing at, she knew that the second miss and His Highness would soon be out of luck. But what did the young miss want to do? Chun Tao and Xia He's culinary skills were not bad. The chestnut water chestnut cakes they made were sweet and delicious, melting in the mouth. "Princess Consort, the water chestnut cakes you made are truly delicious. This servant has never eaten such a delicious water chestnut cake before." Xia He's mouth was very sweet as she quickly said this. Chun Tao couldn't help curling her lips, but she had to admit that Xia He's words were not flattery, but rather the truth. Such a delicious water chestnut cake. This servant believes that His Highness and the concubine consort will not be able to eat it. Chun Tao remembered that His Highness had a water chestnut cake on the menu for tomorrow. She thought that the princess consort was too angry, so she made her and Xia He make a better water chestnut cake. She thought that she had correctly guessed Chen Ning's thoughts, but who would have thought that Chen Ning would shake her head with a smile? It's better to have fun together than to have fun alone. Since you all say that the water chestnut cake with chestnut powder is more delicious, how could this princess hide it? Xia He, you could tell the kitchen about this method. Also, we won't be able to eat all of this water chestnut cake, so you can give the rest of them a try. Chen Ning smiled as she pointed at the pastries on the table. Yes, the princess consort is considerate of her servants. They will definitely be grateful to the princess consort. Chun Tao and Xia He happily agreed as they left with the water chestnut cakes. They did not think too much about it. They just thought that this was the princess consort's way of buying people's hearts. Chen Ning narrowed her eyes in satisfaction. It was impolite not to reciprocate. "Chu Xiaoyang, Chen Baiyin, this is another gift I've given you. I hope you like this gift of mine in return. Thinking about it, I'm really looking forward to it." She gave a lazy yawn. "Xiao Ru, it's getting late. Let's wash up and go to sleep." After Chen Ning washed up, she thought of the devilish handsome young man that came uninvited last night. She personally checked to see if the doors and windows were bolted. Only when she saw that every window was tightly shut and even the door was bolted did she feel relieved. When Xiao Ru saw Chen Ning's strange actions, she couldn't help feeling nervous. She said, "Young miss, are you worried that a thief will come in and steal our money? How about this servant doesn't sleep tonight? This servant will guard the money and not let this servant steal it." Chen Ning smiled as she pinched her nose. "Silly girl, I'm not guarding against a thief that steals money. Just obediently go to sleep for me. Isn't it just 1,000 silver coins? Wait for this miss to bring you to earn more money tomorrow." When Xiao Ru heard the money, her eyes lit up. She happily agreed, lay down on the bed, and soon fell asleep. But Chen Ning was lying on the bed, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. It wasn't until the third watch that she finally fell asleep. She didn't know how long she slept, but she suddenly felt something strange and woke up from her dream. Before she went to bed, she deliberately left a candle in front of the bed, but now even the candle was extinguished without her knowing. Xiao Ru was sleeping. Only Xiao Ru, who was beside her, was breathing evenly. She had not woken up yet, but Chen Ning still felt that something was wrong. She suddenly raised her hand and touched her cheek. Her hand was wet and cold, with a faint scent of pine ink. Damn! Chapter 73. The ink had not dried yet, so it must have been drawn by that devilish young man. He must still be in the room. Sure enough, just as she finished speaking, a candle lit up faintly. In the orange light and shadow, A tall and slender figure sat in front of the table with one hand supporting his chin. His jet-black long hair covered half of his delicate eyebrows, revealing only half of his perfect profile. His gem-like eyes stared at Chen Ning for a moment, and his lips revealed a smile. It was as beautiful as the mountains and rivers, making him look like he did not belong to the mortal world. Even if Chen Ning did not like him, she was still shocked by his charming smile. "Calling me a little stinky brat as soon as we meet. Aren't you afraid of hurting my heart?" The beautiful young man looked at Chen Ning with a look of resentment. Chen Ning gave a shiver and felt goosebumps all over her body for being disgusted by him. "Speak properly for me." Chen Ning angrily grabbed a pillow and threw it at him. She shouted, "If you dare discuss me again, do you believe that I won't slap you again?" The pillow naturally did not hit him. The beautiful young man gently dodged, and the pillow fell to the ground. But when he thought of the slap he received last night, his face turned red and his expression became a bit more serious. Chen Ning turned over and stood up. It was like she already knew that this devilish young man would appear in her room in the middle of the night, so she still had her clothes on. She walked over to the bronze mirror in front of the dresser and looked at it. As expected, there were two little animals drawn on her cheeks. Only this time it was not a wolf and a fox, but rather a little porcupine with sharp teeth and a little turtle with 4 claws facing the sky on the other cheek. These two drawings were even more vivid, especially the little turtle that was trying to turn over but could not. It was very lifelike, making people unable to stop themselves from laughing. Chen Ning held it in and didn't let out a laugh. She did not want to give this beautiful young man a good look. "What do you mean by drawing these two fellows on my face, son?" She raised her brows and revealed a smile as she looked at the beautiful young man. That beautiful young man suddenly became excited. He pointed at the little porcupine and said with a smile, "This is you, and that is my third brother. He, don't you think it's similar?" Chen Ning almost broke down again. This brat had actually drawn Chu Xiao Yang as a turtle. "Why am I a porcupine and he is a turtle?" Chen Ning stared at him and said in a displeased voice, "Because in my heart, all of you are like this. Your body is covered in thorns, and no matter who it is, as long as they get close to you, they will bleed. What is this if not a porcupine? As for my third brother, sooner or later, he will be like this tortoise, suppressed by you until he can't turn over. He." The beautiful youth smiled and winked, his dark pupils shimmering with light. He smiled and picked up the brush. "This turtle is still missing a tail. I didn't have time to draw it before you woke up. How about I add a tail for you?" "Fuck your turtle tail," Chen Ning scolded. She took a step back and dodged the young man's brush. Although she liked the beautiful youth comparing Chu Xiao Yang to a turtle that couldn't turn over, it did not mean that she was willing to appear in front of everyone with a turtle drawn on her face. "Do you think my painting isn't good enough? B? You? Then what do you like? I can draw whatever you like, and I guarantee that it will be very lifelike." The beautiful young man took advantage of this opportunity and spoke with a smile. Chapter 74. Chen Ning couldn't help rolling her eyes as she was speechless once again. This handsome young man seemed to be crazy, but not crazy. He kept pestering her and always appeared in her room in the middle of the night. She couldn't understand what he wanted to do. Did he really want to draw on her face with his childish heart? Or did he want to take revenge for the palm she gave him last time? "Where did you come from?" Chen Ning couldn't help staring at him with suspicion. She had clearly checked the doors and windows and found that they were all tightly locked. Could it be that this young man knew the heaven escaping technique? The beautiful young man seemed to have guessed her thoughts. He raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Not to mention your place. Even if it was a heavily guarded palace, I would still be able to come and go as I please." "Really? I don't believe you." Chen Ning shook her head. She found that the doors and windows were still locked, and there were no signs of them being moved. But this young man seemed to have fallen from the sky. It was just too strange. You don't believe me? All right, then I'll bring you to experience it." As soon as his voice fell, the beautiful young man suddenly rushed over to Chen Ning's side. His movements were as fast as the wind. Ning felt her vision blur, and then her waist tightened. There was an extra arm in front of her. The beautiful young man gently touched her body, stopping Ning from letting out a cry of surprise. He revealed a faint smile and gently floated up. With a wave of his sleeves, 2 tiles on the roof flew up, revealing a hole that could fit the 2 of them. Ning's eyes opened wide. She finally understood how the beautiful young man had come to her room. She had been on guard, but she never thought that he would really fall from the sky. The beautiful young man's arm wrapped around her waist, effortlessly carrying her like he was carrying a baby. He jumped onto the roof and used his qigong, bringing her across the roofs and walls. Ning's eyes opened wide in surprise. She was currently flying through the air, with the sound of the wind whistling in her ears. Under the moonlight, she could clearly see the roofs, trees, and flowers flying by her feet. But she was not afraid at all. Rather, she was filled with a strange kind of excitement. So this was the feeling of freely flying through the air. So this was the legendary qigong. Ning forgot about her disgust for the beautiful young man and wholeheartedly enjoyed this new experience. She did not know where the beautiful young man was taking her. She only knew that she had left the King Ding Yuan Palace and had arrived at a high roof. Standing here, she could look over the entire capital city. It was like she was stepping on the entire city. The beautiful young man let go of Ning's waist and released her acupuncture point. With a smile, he said, "If you accidentally fall, I won't save you." Ning glared at him, but she was quickly attracted by the beautiful scenery in front of her and did not have any thoughts. In the darkness of the night, the vast capital seemed to be shrouded in a hazy white gauze. It was like a graceful girl had used a mysterious veil to cover her beautiful appearance, but it only made it even more tempting to wild and fanciful thoughts. The buildings around her were even more magnificent. Although it was nighttime, one could still feel a sense of majesty, solemnity, and heaviness. Ning's, and she would be it. She looked thoughtfully at the building under the ridge. It seemed that the young man had not lied to her. He had really brought her to the palace. Chapter 75. Come and see me every day. This young man's words were easy to say. Ning couldn't help giving a laugh. What, you don't believe me? The young man raised his eyebrows. His black and white eyes reflected the moonlight, looking strangely bright. I believe. Of course I believe. Ning quickly nodded. She thought of this young man's personality of doing what he said. She was really afraid that he would fly into her room every night and bring her out. Then she wouldn't be able to sleep well in the future. She raised her head. The deep blue sky reflected the specks of stars, which seemed to be within reach. Her childish heart suddenly came out, and she smiled as she reached out her hands. She was about to reach out and grab the moon, but her feet suddenly slipped, and she couldn't help falling downstairs. Her heart was about to jump out. If she fell down, wouldn't her body be smashed to pieces? Her wrist suddenly tightened, and her body spun in the air. When she fell down, she fell into a warm and firm embrace. In front of her was a magnified, handsome face. The 2 of them were very close, and the young man's nose was almost touching hers. Their breaths could be smelled, and there was a clear aura coming from his body that was slowly being released. Ning and the young man's eyes were wide open. She could clearly see her own reflection in his eyes. His eyes were dark and deep, just like a bottomless well. When a person saw it, they couldn't help but be sucked in. She was stunned for a moment. Under the starlight, her eyes were strangely bright. It was like a sky full of stars had fallen into her eyes. The light was dazzling and dazzling. The young man had never seen such beautiful eyes before. His breathing stopped, and his heart began to beat faster. Little stinky brat, thank you for saving me. Can you let go of me now? Ning suddenly said. This position was too ambiguous. It was as if her entire body was in his embrace. There was no distance between the 2 of them. She could almost hear his powerful and rapid heartbeat. She didn't know why, but she only felt a slight warmth on her face. It was very awkward. Her words instantly broke the ambiguous atmosphere between the 2 of them, causing all the fantasies that had just arisen in the young man's heart to completely disappear. You, the beautiful young man, fiercely grinded his teeth and waved his fist at Chen Ning. He angrily threatened, "If you call me a little stinky brat again, do you believe that you what? Do you still want to hit me?" Chen Ning raised her nose in disdain. She did not believe that this brat would dare hit her. I never hit women. But if you dare call me that again, I'll kiss you." He blurted out. His gaze happened to fall on her red and tender cherry lips. Her full lips were like a ripe and tempting fruit, making him suddenly have the urge to taste them. "What did you say?" Chen Ning was stunned, thinking that she had heard him wrong. The young man was also stunned. He didn't expect that he would say something like that. His handsome face was instantly covered with a layer of embarrassment. He lowered his eyes, not daring to look at her clear eyes. Her body was soft as if it didn't have any bones, softly leaning against his chest. The wind blew her hair across the tip of his nose, tickling him, bringing with it a sweet scent, making him unable to stop his imagination from running wild. Chun, I said, if you call me a little stinky brat again, I'll bite you." The young man purposely revealed a fierce expression as he revealed his snow-white teeth at Chen Ning. But Chen Ning saw through his disguise and couldn't help pursing her lips into a smile. A little stinky brat really is a little stinky brat. He's actually shy. Chapter 76. Her smile made the young man angry out of shame. He glared at her and let go of her. The moment she left his embrace, he actually felt a sense of reluctance. His arms moved slightly, as if he wanted to pull her delicate body back into his embrace. This was the first time he had hugged a girl since he was 19. He never knew that a girl's body was this light and this soft, as if it would melt with a single touch. He did not dare use any strength at all. "Hey, little, it's almost daybreak, send me back." Chen Ning almost blurted out the words "little stinky brat," but it was a good thing she stopped herself. She was afraid that this young man would do what he said. If he really kissed her without a care, she wouldn't be able to hide even if she wanted to. But although she did not say it, the young man knew what she meant. He glared at her and angrily said, "I'm called Chu Xiaobai." Chen Ning was stunned. Chu Xiaobai? It was around the same as Chu Xiaoyang. It didn't sound like a good name. So what was there to be proud of? It was better to just call him Xiaobai. Chen Ning muttered in her stomach, but her face revealed a smile as she praised. "So you're called Chu Xiaobai. Woo, this name is good and has a good meaning. It's rare in the heavens, red lips and white teeth. You really live up to your name. It's 100 times better than your third brother's name." Good words came out of her mouth, and she did not even blink when she lied, as if it was the truth. She knew that if she did not pacify this brat, he would throw her on top of the high palace in a fit of anger. She would not be able to call for help even if she called for help from the heavens. "Stop flattering me. Do you think I'm a child that can just lie to me?" Contrary to her expectations, Chu Xiaobai had seen through her thoughts with a single glance. He raised his chin and straightened his chest, making his figure seem even taller. He was almost a head taller than her. She almost had to look up to see his face. "Damn little stinky brat. Why are you this tall?" Chen Ning angrily said in her heart, but she still said with a serious face, "That's right, of course you're not a child. I never lie to children, but it's still daybreak. Send me back, all right?" "Not good." Chu Xiaobai coldly looked at her. "Why?" "Because I'm not happy." Chu Xiaobai pulled a long face and did not even look at Chen Ning. He suddenly jumped down the stairs, and his body he floated like a white cloud. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared without a trace. Chen Ning was stunned. This damned arrogant fellow, he actually walked away by himself, leaving her alone on the roof of a tall building. She couldn't go up to the sky, nor could she go down to the ground. She also didn't know Qin Gong. Was he trying to trap her to death? "Little stinky brat. Chu Xiaobai. You're just a little brat that hasn't grown up." Chu Xiaobai. She couldn't help cursing. "Try calling me that again." Suddenly, a sinister voice sounded behind her. Chen Ning suddenly turned around and almost bumped into a person's nose. That person was too close, so close that she could only see the other side's eyes filled with anger. "I've said it before. If you dare call me little wimp again, I'll," he said through gritted teeth. His gaze lowered and landed on her slightly opened red lips. Ning almost bit off her tongue in regret. Chapter 77. She could immediately guess what kind of bad thoughts this little naughty brat had in his heart. Humph, what little naughty brat? He was simply a little pervert. "You dare." Her face sunk. "Why wouldn't I dare?" Not only did he not retreat, he took a step forward. The two of them were already very close. When he came closer, his nose almost touched hers, and his lips almost touched her lips. Ning instinctively moved back, wanting to avoid his touch. But she forgot that the ground under her feet was not flat, but rather the roof tiles. She missed a step, and her body fell backwards, falling to the ground. Ah! As soon as she let out a shocked cry, Chu Xiaobai's long arm reached out and grabbed her wrist. Half of her body was in the air. If it wasn't for him grabbing her in time, she would have already fallen down and turned into a pile of meat paste. "Call me good big brother, and I'll save you. Otherwise, I'll let go." Chu Xiaobai curled his lips and revealed a smile that could captivate all living beings, but the words he said almost angered Ning half to death. You dare." She glared at him with gritted teeth. "You can see if I dare," he said, smiling calmly, and suddenly loosened his grip. Ning fell down. The wind blew past her ears, and her heart almost jumped out of her chest. "Damn Chu Xiaobai, I won't let you off even if I become a ghost." Just as she was cursing in her heart, she suddenly felt her wrist being grabbed by someone again. Chu Xiaobai looked at her pale face and revealed a smile. He calmly said, "Are you going to call me or not?" At this point, Ning had no choice but to lower her head. She cursed Chu Xiaobai half to death in her heart, and also cursed herself half to death. She could not understand why her mental age was clearly older than Chu Xiaobai by several years, but she had been tricked by him to this kind of embarrassing point. Once she escaped from this predicament, she would definitely take revenge for today. "Chu Xiaobai, little naughty brat, just you wait." Her heart was filled with hatred, but she still looked up and revealed a sweet smile. "Good big brother, pull me up, all right?" There were hedgehogs and tortoises drawn on her cheeks, covering her beautiful appearance. However, her voice was very clear, delicate, and soft. In the quiet night, it was very pleasant to listen to. Chu Xiaobai's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. "Your voice is too soft. I didn't hear it clearly. Speak a bit louder." He had not heard enough and wanted to hear more. Ning gritted her teeth in anger, but she still called him 3 times. "Good brother, good brother, good brother." Her voice was clearer and sweeter than the one before. "Good." Chu Xiaobai's heart was filled with joy and satisfaction. Then he raised his right hand and pulled her up. "Hey, do you want a drink?" Ning stabilized herself, and her heart was still beating fast. Chu Xiaobai took out a wine jug like magic and placed it in front of her. Of course, she was scared half to death just now and wanted to drink some wine to calm her nerves. She grabbed the wine jug and directly drank a few mouthfuls. Then she smacked her lips and said with a look of disgust, "This wine doesn't taste good. It's far worse than the pear blossom white I drank yesterday. Xiaobai, the wine in your palace doesn't taste good." Only then did she realize that he had suddenly disappeared to get some wine. She had thought that he had abandoned her and ran off alone. She finally realized that he had disappeared just now because he had gone to get the wine. She had thought that he had left her behind and ran off. She thought the wine didn't taste good. Chapter 78. This is an aged wine that has been stored in the palace for nearly 30 years. Even the royal family and nobles rarely get to drink it. I purposely stole it from the wine cellar of the imperial kitchen. This wine has a strong after effect. If you drink it like this, you will easily get drunk, he kindly reminded. Drunk? I'm telling you, this miss has never been drunk before. The wind blew and Ning's tongue was a bit loud. Her body was also a bit swaying. She remembered that in the Taihe floor yesterday, she had drunk 20 cups of pear white wine in a row, but she was not drunk at all. This meant that her alcohol tolerance was very high. She had only drunk a few mouthfuls, and Chu Xiaobai actually said she would get drunk? What a joke. He was clearly trying to scare her. Xiaobai, I think you're just unwilling to give up this 30-year-old wine, right? If you don't want me to drink, then I'll drink it. She once again raised the wine jug and poured it into her mouth. Unfortunately, before she could drink 2 mouthfuls, her body tilted and she fell to the ground. Chu Xiaobai was already prepared. He reached out his hand and grabbed her. Her soft body fell into his embrace. A soft and fragrant body filled his embrace, but Chu Xiaobai did not feel any joy in his heart. He revealed a bitter smile as he looked at Chen Ning in his embrace. She had already closed her eyes, and her cheeks were completely red. Even the hedgehog and turtle paintings could not hide the redness of her skin, and her breath was filled with the smell of alcohol. She was drunk. Chu Xiaobai held the unconscious drunker and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He did not plan on getting her drunk, but who would have thought that she would drink like this? It really was killing him. It made his head double. Good wine. Give me another cup. She suddenly spoke in a drunken manner. She raised the wine jug in her hand into the air, raising a cup to the bright moon, facing the shadow of 3 people. Cheers. Her hand tilted and the wine jug fell to the ground. Chu Xiaobai did not know whether to laugh or cry. He never thought that she would be so poetic after being drunk and start reciting poems. That's not right. He suddenly knit his brows. Didn't they all say that the Chun family's young miss was an ignorant idiot? But she was able to recite these 2 poems after being drunk, and they were very vivid. He believed that even the most talented person in the capital, Zhang Hanlin, would not be able to write such a good poem. This young Miss Chun, she really was a mystery that no one could understand. From the first time he saw her in the wedding hall, he felt that she was very interesting and had his interest piqued. Who would have thought that the closer he got to her, the more he realized that she really was different from all the other women he had seen before. It was as if he had come from another world. Go home. I really want to go home. Chen Ning turned around in his arms and muttered this sentence in an unclear voice. All right, I'll send you home. Chu Xiaobai gritted his teeth. He felt as if there was a huge rock pressing down on his heart, making him feel stuffy. She clearly knew that third brother's sweetheart was her younger sister. She clearly knew that third brother didn't like her and usually didn't care about her. But when she got drunk, she kept nagging about going home. Could it be that third brother's position in her heart was really that important? She knew that it was a golden cage, but she was willing to live in it, unwilling to fly out of the cage to enjoy freedom. I don't want to stay here. I want to go home. There's nothing here. I want a fridge, a phone, a computer, a microwave. Oh, I also want a toilet. Chen Ning gave a hiccup and mumbled in her sleep. Chapter 79. She was really drunk and began to speak nonsense. He could not understand a single word she said. He stared at her blushing, drunken face and suddenly felt a sense of pity in his heart. He tightened his arms around her. If third brother can't see how good you are and doesn't know how to love you, then there will be other people in this world who will understand you, love you, and treat you well. He spoke in a soft voice, but word for word. He slowly moved a strand of her hair behind her ear, revealing her delicate face. Looking at the hedgehog and turtle he had drawn on her face, he suddenly felt that the turtle was very irritating. Chen Ning was drunk. The consequence of being drunk was that when she woke up, she would have a splitting headache. She held her head and gave a groan. She opened her eyes and found that she was lying on the bed with Xiao Ru looking at her with a worried expression. Young miss, are you sick? Why is your face so red? Also, your body is filled with the smell of alcohol. Did you drink alcohol? When you were sleeping last night, did this servant notice that you drank alcohol? When Xiao Ru saw that Chen Ning had woken up, she let out a sigh of relief. But her series of questions made Chen Ning unable to answer. Her head was still a little dizzy and unclear. Did that handsome young man really come last night? Did he really bring her out of the prince's mansion and fly to the top of the imperial palace? Also, she clearly had a good alcohol tolerance. So how could she be drunk after drinking a few mouthfuls of wine? Whoa, It must be the pear blossom wine I drank in the Taiji floor yesterday. That wine is really strong. Chen Ning lied without changing her expression. She really did not know how to explain the matter of Chu Xiao by to Xiao Ru. If she said it, she would definitely scare her half to death. So it's like this. You scared this servant to death. This servant thought that the young miss wouldn't wake up. Xiao Ru's eyes were still red, but hearing Chen Ning's words, her tears turned into a smile. Don't jinx it. If you keep cursing me, be careful that I don't hit your butt. Go, use a handkerchief to wash my face. Chen Ning smiled as she scolded her. She lazily got up and looked out the window. She couldn't help being shocked. When she woke up, she found that the sun was already in the west, and the courtyard was covered in a red glow. She had been drunk for this long. Damn Xiao Bai, it was all his fault. Why did he make her drink wine for no reason? Chen Ning angrily ground her teeth. She suddenly thought of something and rubbed her face. She walked over to the copper mirror and looked at the bronze mirror. The little hedgehog with sharp teeth was still on her left cheek, but the tortoise on her right cheek was gone. In its place was a majestic lion. She did not even need to think to know that it was Chu Xiao Bai. But why did he wipe the turtle and replace it with a lion? He couldn't be trying to use this method to warn himself that his third brother was a lion's, but that couldn't be touched, right? Chen Ning of Chu. Chen Ning angrily picked up the towel and wiped the two animals off her face, not leaving a single trace. Xiao 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 of a Xiao Xiao of Xiao. She felt that eldest Mrs. habit of drawing on her face in the middle of the night was a little strange, but the little animals she drew were really cute. She couldn't get enough of them. Missy, if you like to draw, can you draw my face in the future? Xiao Ru's words almost made Chen Ning spit out a mouthful of blood. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she looked at Xiao Ru. What kind of eyes do you have? You still like this kind of ugly painting? Don't you feel ashamed wearing this kind of painting? Chapter 80. Chen Ning was completely speechless. She thought about it and said, "All right, as long as you help me with something, I'll draw it for you tonight. As long as the young miss orders it. This servant will do it no matter what it is." Xiao Ru happily clapped her hands. "Come closer." Chen Ning called Xiao Ru over and whispered a few words into her ear. Xiao Ru nodded her head. When they were eating dinner, Chen Ning looked up and looked over at Chun Tao and Xiaohe. "If you have something to say, just say it. What are you whispering about?" She could already see that the two maids' expressions were different from normal. There was a bit of excitement, a bit of nervousness, and a bit of schadenfreude. Yes, princess consort. The two maidservants couldn't hold it in any longer. Hearing Chun Ning say this, they immediately poured everything out like a bamboo tube, taking turns to speak. After His Highness finished morning court, he went straight to the concubine's intoxicated flower pavilion. I heard that His Highness was angry. His face wasn't his face, and his nose wasn't his nose. When His Highness entered the intoxicated flower pavilion, he threw a big tantrum at the concubine's concubine. I heard that His Highness ate something bad during breakfast. In the end, during morning court, he made a big fool of himself in court. Chen Ning couldn't help asking, "Oh, what kind of fool?" She raised her eyebrows, her face full of interest. The two maids covered their mouths and giggled. They pushed and shoved each other as if they were too embarrassed to say anything. Reporting to the princess consort, this servant heard from His Highness follower, Xiao and Zi, that His Highness began to release a strange smell the moment he left the palace. The smell was very strange, but Xiao and Zi did not dare say anything and endured it the entire way. Even when His Highness was on his way back from court, he was still releasing this kind of smell. Xiaohe had a strange expression as she spoke with a smile. This servant also heard that the concubine's stomach had been upset for the entire morning. The smell in the room was very bad, and His Highness staggered when he went in. That concubine's incense could not cover the smell, so His Highness angrily turned around and left. He said that he would never eat breakfast in the intoxicated flower pavilion again. Chun Tao giggled and added, "These two maids were originally people from the King Ding Yuan Palace, but after following Chen Ning, they began to respect her more and more. At the same time, they began to look down on His Highness Chu Xiaoyang. For such a good person like the princess consort to be disliked by him. He truly had eyes but could not see. So when they heard the news of Chu Xiaoyang and Chun Bai Yun's misfortune, the two of them felt like they were watching a good show. Xiaoru was grinning from ear to ear as she kept asking the two of them for details. When they were happy, the three of them broke out in laughter. Chenning did not stop them. She just smiled at them. She was in a very good mood, and this dinner was especially delicious. She felt that Chun Tao and Xiahe's cooking skills were not any worse than the chefs in the Taihe floor. Young miss, although you don't say it, this servant knows that the matter between His Highness and the second miss was done by you, right? Xiaoru had grown up with Chen Ning since they were young. She took advantage of Chun Ning, taking her out to digest, and couldn't help asking. Chen Ning did not hide it and smiled as she nodded. That's right, it was done by me. After saying this, she rubbed Xiao Ru's nose in praise and said with a smile, I really couldn't tell, but you've grown quite a bit recently. You can even guess this. Chapter 81. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile and said, So it's like this. Xiaoru pulled on Chen Ning's sleeve and begged, Young miss, don't keep us in suspense. Quickly tell this servant, all right? She kept guessing and felt that the problem was with the water chestnut cakes. But they had all eaten water chestnut cakes before, so there was no problem. Moreover, the young miss had never been to the kitchen before. Even if she wanted to do something to the water chestnut cakes, it would be impossible. All right, I'll tell you, but it's fine as long as you know it. You can't tell Chun Tao and Xiahe. They haven't been with me for long, so it's hard to say if they treat me sincerely or not. You have to keep this a secret. Do you understand? Chen Ning was worried about Xiao Ru's big mouth, so she specifically warned her. Xiao Ru nodded. Young miss, you can be assured. This servant will definitely keep this a secret and won't say a single word. Chen Ning smiled and said, Actually, it's very simple. Yesterday, I had Chun Tao and Xia. He mixed half of the chestnut powder in the water chestnut cake and had them send it to the kitchen for the people making the dessert to taste. They will feel that the water chestnut cake with the chestnut powder is more delicious, and Chun Bai Yun's breakfast menu has water chestnut cakes. In order to please the concubine Chun Bai Yun, they will definitely add chestnut powder into the water chestnut cake. Xiaoru scratched her head and said in a puzzled voice, But we've all eaten water chestnut cakes with chestnut powder before. They didn't release that kind of gas. Chen Ning tapped Xiao Ru's forehead and said with a smile, This is only one of the reasons. There is another. The menu also has a beef stew. This beef can nourish the stomach and nourish the body, so it is a very good food for people. However, this beef has a taboo, which is that it cannot be eaten with chestnuts. If we drink the beef stew and eat the water chestnut cakes at the same time, what do you think will happen? She smiled as she looked at Xiaoru. Her clear eyes revealed a sly glow like a fox. Xiaoru was suddenly enlightened. She clapped her hands and said with a smile, Ha ha, I know. If we eat both at the same time, we will be like His Highness and the second miss, constantly releasing that kind of gas. The two of them looked at each other and broke out in laughter. The more Xiaoru thought about it, the more convinced she was. She couldn't help saying, Young miss, how did you think of such a strange method? Can you teach this servant a bit? No. Chen Ning shook her head in a serious manner. Xiaoru had a sad face. Ning you, Xiaoru. Xiaoru. Chen Ning smiled and said, It's because you're too pure. Even if I taught you, you wouldn't be able to do it. By the way, have you done what I asked you to do? It's done. I hid it under the bed. Eldest miss, what do you need it for? Ning Chun, Chun 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 Ning, Ning Chun, Chun, Ning Chun, Xiaoru Ning Chun. In the 3rd month, hundreds of flowers were in full bloom. The prince's mansion was filled with exotic flowers that competed with each other in beauty. The sky in the west was red like fire, and the beautiful flowers looked even more beautiful under the sunlight. I didn't expect the prince's mansion to have such a beautiful scenery. When the peach blossoms have all fallen and become plump and moist, we can come here and eat to our heart's content. Chapter 82. Xiao Ru couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. This servant loves eating peaches the most. The peach blossoms here are so beautiful. The peaches that come out will definitely be big and sweet. Io. Chen Ning suddenly let out a soft cry. She had only been admiring the peach blossoms and did not notice that a peach branch had caught her hairpin. She gently struggled, and the hairpin was lifted by the peach branch. Her jet black hair fell down her back like a waterfall. "Young miss, wait a bit. I'll help you take the hairpin." Xiao Ru stretched out her arm to grab it, but she couldn't reach it. "I'll do it myself." Chen Ning revealed a faint smile. She stood on her tiptoes and used her left hand to grab the peach branch. Her right hand reached out and gently took the hairpin from the branch. Her wide sleeves fell down when she raised her arm, revealing a snow-white arm. Her skin was as white as snow and as clear as jade. The light of the setting sun shined through the gaps in the peach branches and onto her face. There was not a single trace of makeup on her face, and her smile was clean and pure, without a trace of smoke or fire. Xiao Ru couldn't help being stunned. She already knew that the young miss was very beautiful, but the current Chen Ning was as beautiful as a peach blossom fairy. It made her unable to speak. "Silly girl, are you stunned from looking at the peach blossoms?" Chen Ning looked back. Seeing Xiao Ru's stunned appearance, she couldn't help pursing her lips into a smile. She pulled her hand and walked out of the forest. She was wearing a moon-white dress that revealed her soft and graceful waist. With the wind blowing on her dress, she looked like a lily swaying in the wind. Her silhouette became a delightful scenery in the eyes of others. What Chen Ning did not know was that when she and Xiao Ru walked into the peach blossom forest, Chu Xiaoyang was not far from them. Whenever he was in a bad mood, he would come to this peach blossom forest by himself. Today his mood was very bad. Not only was it bad, he was very irritable. He was irritable to the point that he wanted to kill someone. There was no other reason. No matter who it was, after being ridiculed by his colleagues in court for 2 days in a row, his mood would not be good. Especially today, not long after he had his breakfast, he felt as if his stomach was turning upside down. Streams of air rushed out of his stomach. Even with his profound internal energy, he couldn't hold it in. On the way to court, he had let out a ping, 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 pang, ping sound. It was a good thing that there was only Xiao and Zi beside him, and no one else heard him. In court, he had thought that he had already controlled himself. But he never would have thought that when he went to court, the emperor would ask a question of his own. As soon as he opened his mouth to answer, the anger he had been holding back for a long time suddenly exploded. In front of the emperor and all the civil and military officials of the court, he let out an abnormally loud fart. He felt extremely embarrassed. He of the emperor and the ministers were all stunned. They did not realize that it was Chu Xiaoyang's fart at first, because in all these years, no one had ever dared to fart in the royal court. They all thought that it was coming from somewhere, so they all turned to look. Following that, a strange smell assailed everyone's nostrils, causing everyone in the hall to cover their noses. Chu Xiaoyang felt that everyone was looking at him with strange gazes. His face turned red, and he lowered his head. Who would have thought that after he let out a fart, the air that had been suppressed in his stomach for a long time would suddenly find an outlet, and he would continuously let out a series of farts. Chapter 83. The throne room was solemn and solemn. It was a place where the ministers did not even dare to breathe. When he let out a series of farts, the sound was loud and clear, echoing for a long time. The ministers' hearts were filled with joy, and they could not hold it in, especially the ministers that had grudges with Chu Xiaoyang. When they saw Chu Xiaoyang make a fool of himself in front of everyone, they were filled with joy. But in front of the emperor, they still had to hold it in. No one dared to make a sound, so they could only endure it. Their faces turned red and their bodies twitched. Even the emperor, who was usually stern and unsmiling, could not help but twitch a few times. At that moment, Chu Xiaoyang wished he could find a pillar to smash his head against. He had thought that the scene in the wedding hall was the most humiliating moment of his life, but compared to the current situation, it paled in comparison. If there was a crack in the floor of the throne room, he would have jumped in without any hesitation. It was a good thing that his uncle, the emperor, gave his nephew a way out. He softly said, "King Dingyuan is not feeling well. There is no need for morning court. Go back to your palace and rest." It was like he had been pardoned as he walked out of the throne room in shame. On the way back to the palace, he would occasionally let out a fart or two. The anger in Chu Xiaoyang's chest was about to melt him, but he could not find a place to vent it. He didn't even need to think to know that the matter of him farting in court today would quickly spread throughout the capital. At that time, he would become a laughingstock, and he would not be able to raise his head no matter where he went. Damn, he really deserved to die. He gritted his teeth in anger. When he got off the horse to return to the palace, he broke the wooden pole that tied the horse to him with a single punch. The anger in his chest had not been vented yet. He thought about it, and felt that the main culprit was the breakfast that Chun Baiyun had carefully prepared. So he angrily went to the intoxicated flower pavilion to denounce her. Chun Baiyun had also been upset for the entire morning. As soon as Chu Xiaoyang stepped out of the door, she began to fart. Moreover, she did it one after the other. The beautiful room quickly became filled with an unbearable stench. She was about to faint from the smell of her own farts, but she did not dare leave the room. Because there were many people in the palace, how could she let others know of her shameful matter? If it reached His Highness' ears, the beautiful image of her in His Highness' heart would be destroyed. Her personal maid, Lan Xiang, grabbed several handfuls of spices and threw them into the incense burner. She also opened all the windows in the room, but the stench lingered for a long time. Chun Baiyun could not help feeling secretly anxious. If His Highness came to visit her and smelled this stench, of being, of course, concubine consort, His Highness, he came back at the palace of the palace. What she was afraid of would come. Hearing Lan Xiang's report, Chun Baiyun even wanted to die. It was too late for her to hide now. The sound of Chu Xiaoyang's boots had already reached the door. A face Chun, Your Highness, you're back. Before he could finish his sentence, he heard a pu sound. The two of them were stunned at the same time, thinking that it was their own fart. Looking at each other, Chu Xiaoyang and Chun Baiyun both had awkward looks on their faces. This servant deserves to die. This servant did not do it on purpose. I really could not hold it in. I ask your highness and concubine consort for forgiveness. Lan Xiang knelt down with a thud and cowed out. Chapter 84. Chu Xiaoyang's face turned livid with anger as he angrily shouted, "Scram!" Raising his foot, he sent Lan Xiang flying. Your Highness, it's all this concubine's fault for not teaching her properly. Your Highness, please forgive me. Chun Baiyun's face was filled with shame as she admitted her wrongs in a low voice. Chu Xiaoyang gave a cold snort. Although he was angry, he knew that Chun Baiyun was pregnant and couldn't be angered. He could only endure it and walk into the room. Only when he stepped into the room, he was choked by a strange smell and couldn't help coughing. Chun Baiyun's face was as red as a piece of cloth as she said in a low voice, "This concubine has a bad stomach. Your Highness, please go rest somewhere else first." Normally, when she saw Chu Xiaoyang come to the intoxicated flower pavilion, it was like a golden phoenix had fallen from the sky. She racked her brains to make him stay for a bit longer, but this was the first time she had taken the initiative to persuade Chu Xiaoyang to leave. But she couldn't force him. She could clearly see that the longer Chu Xiaoyang stayed, the uglier his face became. Even if she didn't take the initiative to say it, Chu Xiaoyang couldn't stay here any longer. He wasn't stupid. He didn't want to smell this strange smell in the room. You're pregnant, so it's best if you eat a light meal in the future. Also, this king doesn't like light foods, so you can eat breakfast by yourself in the future. After saying this, Chu Xiaoyang left without looking back. He left Chun Baiyun standing in the room in a daze. Looking at Chu Xiaoyang's back as he left, she bit her lips so hard that blood almost came out. Chu Xiaoyang left the intoxicated flower pavilion and went straight to the peach blossom forest. He didn't even let his personal attendant, Xiao, and Zi follow. He was lying on a peach branch, gently swaying in the wind. He was currently resting with his eyes closed, but when he heard the sound of footsteps approaching, he couldn't help frowning. This peach blossom forest was his forbidden area. Without his orders, no one could approach it. In the entire king's palace, there was no one that didn't know his rules. But who was this bold, daring to disobey his orders and sneak into his territory? He angrily opened his eyes, and a young girl's beautiful back appeared in front of him. Her hair was like clouds, mist, and flowing water. She was taking a hairpin from a peach branch. Her long sleeves slid down, revealing her snow-white arms. After the hairpin was taken off, she slightly tilted her head, revealing half her face. Her lips curled up, Chu Xiao Yang, revealing a smile that was hard to describe. Chu Xiao Yang's body suddenly went numb like he had been struck by lightning. His mind was blank as he stared at the girl's back. She walked out of his sight like a lotus in the wind. After a long time, he suddenly came back to his senses. Who this young girl? Chu Xiao Yang felt that her back was a bit familiar, like he had seen her before, but he couldn't remember where. He jumped down from the tree and used his qing gong to chase after the girl in the direction she disappeared. When he chased them out of the garden, Chun Ning and Xiao Ru had already disappeared without a trace. Chu Xiao Yang stood at the door and looked into the distance. He saw the glow in the distance like a burning cloud. Thinking back to the figure he had just seen, it was like a dream. Chu Xiao Yang stood at the door and looked into the distance. He saw the red glow in the distance like a burning cloud. Thinking back to the figure he had just seen, it was like a dream. He stood there in a daze for a moment before turning back to the peach blossom forest. He swept his sleeves, and the peach blossom petals fell to the ground without a sound. He stared at the flower buds, and the faint smile on a young girl's face flashed in front of his eyes. Could it be that he really had a peach blossom dream? Of course, Chu Xiaoyang would never have dreamed that this unforgettable young girl was the one he hated to the bones and the one he had married to the heavens and earth, Chun Ning. Chapter 85. Returning to the room, Chun Ning had Xiao Ru take out the things she had prepared. It was 10 very strong fishing nets. Xiao Ru was filled with confusion. She could not understand what the young miss wanted to do. Could it be that she wanted to fish for money? But there was only a moat in the capital, and there were no fish in the moat. Chun Ning sent Chun Tao and Xia He out and bolted the door. Then she personally climbed up the ladder and hung the nets one by one under the beam. There were many layers of nets, one layer after another. After finishing, she clapped her hands and looked up at her masterpiece. She revealed a satisfied smile. Now that she had laid down an inescapable net, she was just waiting for Chu Xiaobai to walk into it. As long as he dared to come at night, he would definitely fall into her net. Xiao Ru's mouth was wide open, and she could not close it for a long time. "Young miss, you've hung all these nets up there. Are you worried that the roof tiles will fall?" she asked in a puzzled voice. "No." Chun Ning put away her smile and said in a serious voice, "Have you ever heard of a pie falling from the sky? I prepared the nets and am preparing to catch a large pie." That night, Chun Ning slept very peacefully. When she opened her eyes, the sky was already bright. The nets hanging on the beams were still there, as if no one had touched them at all. The first thing she did after waking up was to look at herself in the mirror. When she saw that her face was clean and there were no animals drawn on it, her heart felt a faint sense of loss. Chu Xiaobai had not appeared for an entire night. Could it be that he had found the trap she had set up? Chun Ning shook her head in puzzlement, but she quickly threw this question to the back of her mind. She believed that even if Chu Xiaobai did not come last night or tonight, he would come one day. All she needed to do was to spread the net and wait quietly. After eating breakfast, she changed her clothes and painted her face yellow. Then she said to Xiao Ru, "Let's go, we're going out to earn some money." When Xiao Ru heard about earning money, her eyes lit up and she excitedly followed beside Chun Ning. Chun Ning took out the palace token and easily left the palace. "Young miss, are we still going to Tai He floor? You can write another recipe for the shopkeeper and earn 1,000 silver coins," Xiao Ru said with an excited expression. Chun Ning smiled as she pinched her nose. Do you think your family's young miss sells recipes? Those 4 recipes were just something I coincidentally saw. If it was that easy to earn money, would your young miss need to go out and read people's fortunes? She was a well-trained memory master from the modern era. She had an eidetic memory and had even built a memory palace in her brain. Aside from a high-intensity training, she also liked to read some random books in her free time. The recipes for these 4 dishes were found in one of the books, and they were left in the memory palace in her mind. She did not expect that after transmigrating, she would actually be able to sell it for 1,000 taels of silver. It could be considered an unexpected fortune. Xiao Xiao. As long as she walked this road once, Chun would not forget. Chun. She pulled Xiao Ru and turned east and west, quickly arriving at the street filled with people and business opportunities. The peddlers on the street set up their own stalls and shouted enthusiastically. Chapter 86. Xiaoru looked over with a puzzled expression. She saw a large group of people gathering at the end of the street. She remembered that the last time she came here, there was clearly no one there. Xiaoru 1, 2, 3, turn around and run. Chen Ning did not say another word as she pulled Xiao Ru and ran. But it was too late. There were already people in the crowd that had discovered them. They pointed in their direction and said, "It's her." Then the group of people was like a large black cloud, charging right at them. Chen Ning and Xiao Ru had only run a few steps when they were caught up by the crowd and surrounded in the center. It's over. They couldn't run anymore. Chen Ning stopped moving. She decided to deal with the situation as it came. She slowly turned around and cupped her hands towards an old man who was panting as he rushed over. She greeted him with a smile. "Old uncle, I haven't seen you in 2 days. You look even more spirited and healthy." That old man was the one she stopped on the street with a basket of eggs the day before yesterday. After listening to her eloquent words, he willingly took out 10 taels of silver as a thank you gift. So when she saw the old man and the large group of people behind him, her heart trembled. Her intuition told her that this was bad, and she immediately ran, but she never thought that she would not be able to escape. Her first reaction was that something must have happened to the old man's fat son, so the old man had brought people to settle accounts with her. But now that she couldn't run, she could only take it one step at a time. She could only try to stall for time. The old man was panting as he ran, but it wasn't easy for him to catch his breath. His hands were on his hips as he glared at Chen Ning with a fierce look on his face. "Hey, little girl, why are you running? Do you think we're tigers or lions that can eat you?" Chen Ning giggled and said, "Old uncle, you misunderstood. I saw that you were here, so I wanted to borrow a bench from the nearby carpentry shop for you to sit on." She did not even blink as she said this lie, but the old man clearly did not fall for it and gave a heavy snort. Chen Ning continued to smile. Her eyes were a bit weak as she looked around at the people around her. "Are these old uncle's relatives?" "No." The old man shook his head and said, "They are all looking for you." "Looking for me?" Chen Ning was stunned. Then she gave a bitter smile and said, "I don't know them, so why are they looking for me?" She muttered in her heart. If these people were really the old man's relatives looking for her, then she would only need a punch from each of them, and she would not be able to walk away. "Divine Fortune Girl, this one is looking for you to have your fortune read." A burly man puffed out his chest and spoke in a loud and coarse voice. His voice was like a great bell, and it was extremely loud and clear the moment he spoke. That's right, Divine Fortune-Telling Girl. Uncle, he said that your fortune-telling is very accurate. Can you help me read my words?" A thin, monkey-like, middle-aged man asked. "We've been waiting here for 2 days, and we've finally waited for Divine Fortune Girl. Divine Fortune Girl, Divine Fortune Girl, Divine Fortune, and Divine Fortune." Everyone surrounded Chen Ning in the center, talking at the same time, chattering away. Chen could not. Chen Ning couldn't help rolling her eyes at the sky. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Seeing everyone's aggressive stance, it didn't seem like they were looking for her to have their fortunes read. It was clear they were looking for her life, almost scaring her to the point of cramping. Chapter 87. The old uncle surnamed, he reached out his hands to stop her. He turned around and stroked his beard as he revealed a smile to Chun-Ning. Divine fortune-telling girl, it's like this. That day you helped my son read his fortune and fortune. This old man will be honest. I was only half convinced by what you said and didn't believe it at all. Chun-Ning nodded and revealed a faint smile, waiting for him to continue. However, when it comes to fortune-telling, it's better to believe it's true than not. Thus, when I returned, I changed my son's name. I used the word Chung that Miss mentioned and added it into the family tree. That night, in the middle of the night, my son was crying as usual, making it so noisy that I couldn't sleep. Thus, I thought of the method you taught me and mixed some yellow soil with water to feed him. I didn't expect that after drinking the water, he actually slept until dawn. Moreover, he slept very peacefully. This is something that has never happened before. When old uncle he said this, he gave a few chuckles before continuing. This old man was surprised and happy, so I told this matter to the surrounding relatives and neighbors. They all refused to believe me and said that this old man had met a swindler. This old man was not convinced, so I brought them to find divine fortune-telling girl, wanting to show them your skills. I never thought that after waiting for an entire day, you still wouldn't come. This time, they did not believe this old man's words and insisted that this young lady was a swindler. Chun-Ning nodded and said, and then her eyes swept over the surroundings. She saw that some people had ashamed expressions, some people had mocking looks, and some people raised their eyebrows. She had an idea in her heart. This old man won't argue with them. They don't believe in divine fortune-telling girl's skills, but this old man is convinced. So this morning, this old man brought everyone here to wait for you. Finally, divine fortune-telling girl has arrived. Miss, if you don't show your skills, then this old man will be treated as an old fool by them. After saying this, old uncle he looked at the people around him and gave a heavy snort. So it was like this. Chun-Ning let out a soft sigh. Her eyes turned and she smiled at everyone. So you're saying that you're all here to find me for fortune-telling? Yes. Everyone nodded. But there are so many of you. Who should I tell first? Chun-Ning knit her brows and revealed an awkward expression. When everyone heard this, it was like a pot had exploded. Tell me first. Tell me first. I was here first. Let me go first. I'm the first one. Everyone's faces turned red as they argued, as if they were about to fight. Chun-Ning pursed her lips into a smile and raised her voice to say, everyone, don't be so anxious, listen to me. When she spoke, everyone immediately shut their mouths, and the noisy scene instantly quieted down. Everyone's eyes were all staring at Ruo Shui, waiting for her to speak. At this moment, in addition to the people who were looking for her to have their fortunes read, there were also many people who were watching the bustling scene. The entire street was blocked, and many of the peddlers were complaining. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Ruo Shui coughed lightly and said calmly, ladies and gentlemen, this is the downtown area where people do business. With so many of us here, it's not good to delay other people's business. Why don't we go to a place with fewer people? Everyone, line up, and I'll read your fortune one by one. How about that? Chapter 88. As soon as Chun-Ning's voice fell, she saw the surrounding people all turn around and run towards the corner of the street. They were all running faster than rabbits. Xiaoru looked at this scene in amazement. Her heart was filled with an indescribable admiration. The young miss really had her ways. With just a single sentence, she was able to convince several dozen people. Her eyes sparkled as she looked at the line of people quickly forming at the corner of the street. Her eyes lit up as she silently counted on her fingers. 1 person, 10 silvers, 2 people, 20 silvers, 3 people, 30 silvers. It was like there were countless silver bills in front of her eyes. Very quickly, she would once again have cramps from counting money. She was so happy that her eyes narrowed. Pa! Chun-Ning slapped the back of her head, waking this little girl up from her fantasies. Little girl, what are you thinking about? Why aren't you going to the carpentry shop from last time to rent a table? It was like Xiao Ru had just woken up from a dream. She happily ran over to the carpentry shop. Chun Ning smiled as she walked to the corner of the street, but her heart was not as relaxed as it looked. This was because she knew that out of the large group of people looking for her to read their fortunes, most of them were here to cause trouble for her. They were here to laugh at her. If she was the slightest bit careless and was caught by these people, she was afraid that she would not be able to make a comeback. The line was very long. It actually went from the end of the street to the end of the street. It was double the number of people from before. Many of them were here to watch the fun, but there were also some who were here to cause trouble. When Xiao Ru, who was carrying the tables and chairs, saw this scene, she was so happy that she couldn't close her mouth. The first person in the line was the man with a loud voice and a round waist. He had a tall stature, and with a wave of his arms, he threw everyone else behind him. No one could compete with him. He sat down in front of Chun Ning. Chun Ning smiled and said, "This big brother, do you want to read your fortune or read your fortune?" The man stretched out his large palm and placed it on the table. He said in a rough voice, "I don't know how to read, so you can read my palm." "All right." Chun Ning happily agreed. She had never read her palm before, but that did not mean she did not know how to act. "This big brother, what do you want to read?" Chun Ning asked with a smile. "I'm already 23 this year, but I haven't found a wife yet. You can read my fortune and see when I can marry a beautiful wife." The man said with a laugh. As soon as he said this, the surrounding people began to boo. Someone couldn't help but say, "I say, little brother, are you looking at a person's physiognomy or a matchmaking session?" "She's a fortune teller, not a matchmaker." "That's right. If fortune telling could tell when you'll find a wife, why would you need a matchmaker? Aren't you just making things difficult for me?" "That's right. You're not here to have your fortune told. You're here to make trouble." Some of the onlookers couldn't stand it anymore and started to criticize the man. However, the man glared at the crowd and shouted arrogantly, "Why can't I figure it out? If she couldn't even calculate this, how could she be called a fortune teller? Just pack up your stall and get lost." He turned to look at Chun Ning and forcefully slapped the table. "Tell me, can it be calculated or not?" "Very good." The first person they met was such a tough one. Chapter 89. I can calculate it. Of course I can calculate it. Chun Ning smiled and nodded. Hearing this, the burly man revealed a complacent smile. He glanced around and said, "Did you hear that clearly? The girl said she can calculate it." Everyone revealed a surprised expression. Over 100 pairs of eyes stared at Chun Ning without blinking, wanting to see how she would calculate it. Chun Ning was not in a rush. Her eyes first looked over the man's face and then slightly looked down. She looked over the man's clothes without anyone noticing, and then her eyes fell onto his palm. This was a farmer's hand. The bones were thick and the skin was rough. The palm was covered in calluses, but it was washed clean and there was no dirt under the nails. She stared at the man's palm for a while, not saying a single word. The man began to become impatient. The people around them began to whisper and point at Chun Ning. "If you can't calculate it, then say it. Stop pretending and wasting this one's time. I think you're just a swindler." The man shouted out without any trace of politeness. Hearing this, Chun Ning suddenly raised her head. A pair of clear and spirited eyes stared straight at the man. "Your surname is Zhao, right?" She didn't say anything, but once she did, she shocked the world. The man's eyebrows jumped, and his butt almost rolled off the stool. "How do you know my surname is Zhao?" he shouted. These words without a doubt admitted that what Chun Ning said was true. Everyone let out a wung sound as they revealed looks of disbelief. Chun Ning gave a gentle laugh in her heart. When she looked over, she noticed that the man had accidentally lifted a corner of his clothes and had a crooked Zhao word embroidered on it. She wasn't blind, so how could she not see it? She stared at the man's hand and slowly said, "Your surname is Zhao, and you were originally farming in the countryside, living a hard life. You don't have a father and only have a mother, but her eyes are not good. In the last 2 years, you've made a fortune, so you bought a house in the city and moved there. Big brother Zhao, is my calculation correct?" As she said this, the man's mouth fell open. When Chen Ning finished speaking, his mouth was already wide enough to fit a large duck egg inside. His face was filled with shock and disbelief. Right, everything is correct. But how do you know everything? You've seen me and my mother before? The man surnamed Zhao's heart could no longer be described as shocked. His eyes looking at Chen Ning were filled with admiration and awe. This was because Chen Ning had described his family situation perfectly, as if she had seen it with her own eyes. His name was Zhao Ergo, and he was not originally from the capital. Instead, he owned 2 mu of land outside the city, and his family had been farming for generations. Not long after he was born, his father died of a serious illness, leaving his mother to painstakingly raise him. She barely made ends meet by sewing clothes for others. There was no man in the family, so he had to do farm work when he was young. The 2 mu of land was only enough to make a living. Sometimes, it was not even enough to fill his stomach. His mother was half-blind because she sewed under the dim oil lamp all year round. Perhaps the heavens pitied the orphan and widowed mother. 2 years ago, when he was hoeing the fields, he accidentally dug up an antique jar. When he opened it, he found that it was filled with gold ingots. Chapter 90. So Zhao Ergo sold his farm and bought a house in the city. He brought his blind mother to the capital city and lived the life of a rich family. He wholeheartedly wanted to marry a beautiful city girl as his wife, but the surrounding large families all knew that he was a farmer in the countryside. No one was willing to let their daughter marry a country bumpkin, so he had delayed it until he was 23. He was so anxious that his head almost turned white. Chen Ning revealed a mysterious smile and slowly said, "Big brother Zhao, what I'm saying is all from your palm." She spoke as if she was telling the truth. The surrounding people all believed it, and Zhao Ergo was filled with admiration. He almost knelt down in front of Chen Ning and called her an immortal descending to the mortal world. Divine fortune-telling girl, can you help me calculate when I can marry a wife?" Zhao Ergo's expression and tone became very low. He had a very careful look on his face, completely different from before. "About this, let me calculate it." Chen Ning slightly closed her eyes, and the fingers on her right hand kept flexing, as if she was calculating something. The surrounding people were all shocked by her divine skill. They couldn't help holding their breaths, afraid that they would disturb her. Zhao Ergo did not even dare to breathe. Chen Ning finally opened her eyes and revealed a faint smile to Zhao Ergo. "Your Hongwan star has already moved. In less than 3 days, there will be people coming to your house to propose marriage. I wish Big Brother Zhao and my future wife-in-law 100 years of happiness and many children." What did you say? There will really be people coming to my house to propose marriage? Zhao Ergo was filled with joy. He was so excited that he wanted to grab Chen Ning's hand. Chen Ning's hand moved back, and he grabbed empty air. He immediately realized that his actions were a bit rude and scratched his head in embarrassment. "I'm sorry, divine fortune-telling girl. I'm just too happy. But you wouldn't be lying to me, right?" he asked with a face filled with worry. It had to be known that in these past 2 years, he had given countless amounts of money to the matchmakers, but none of them had been able to help him find a marriage. But today, Chen Ning had said that there would be people coming to propose marriage in 3 days. How could he not be suspicious? In 3 days, if Big Brother Zhao doesn't see anyone coming to propose marriage, then you can come and destroy my iron-mouthed divine fortune-telling sign. Chen Ning pointed at the black and white words on the side and said in a resolute voice, Good. Here are 10 silver coins. I asked divine fortune-telling girl to accept it. If there really is a joyous event within 3 days, Zhao Ergo, will definitely come back to thank divine fortune-telling girl." Zhao Ergo was so happy that he could not close his mouth. He took out 10 silver coins and respectfully placed them on the table before leaving in a happy mood. He had heard from Chen Ning that someone would come to propose in 3 days. He was afraid of missing it, so he couldn't wait to rush home. Of course, Chen Ning was not Zhuge Liang, who could predict the future, and she did not know how to read fortunes. The so-called fortune reading was just a pretense she made up. The reason why she could be so accurate was because of her meticulous observation and accurate psychological judgment. This micro-expression technique in psychology was very profound and had been mastered by many people in the modern era. Ning was one of the best at this. She had repeatedly used these two skills to solve some difficult and strange cases. Chapter 91. Although Ning said that this man surnamed Zhao would have something good happen in 3 days and no one could verify it, she was able to tell that Zhao Ergo's matter was correct just by reading his palm. Once this skill was revealed, how could anyone doubt her divine fortune-telling ability at all? The crowd suddenly became excited. Divine fortune-telling girl, I am willing to pay an extra 50 silver coins. Can you help me with my divination first? A fat middle-aged man with a big belly squeezed out of the crowd. He placed a silver ingot worth 50 silver coins in front of Ning and spoke in a rich and overbearing manner. Ning was stunned. Before she could say anything, the crowd began to fill with angry and dissatisfied voices. That fatty, what do you mean? Are you showing off how much money you have? Do you think that with some stinky money you can get a number? Father has 50 more silver coins than you. Damn, I'll pay an extra 100 silver coins. The originally orderly team suddenly became a mess. Everyone squeezed forward, surrounding a small wooden table so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. There were 3 layers of people inside and 3 layers outside. Ning suddenly found it hard to breathe. Those local tycoons were still calling out their prices. 150 silver coins, 200 silver coins, 250. Their voices were getting louder and louder, each one more confident than the last. The amount of silver coins kept increasing, making Ning's head feel like it was about to explode. Her face sunk, and it was as if a layer of frost had covered it. All of you shut up for me. Her voice was even more effective than the Emperor's imperial edict. The chaotic crowd instantly quieted down. Everyone stared at her without blinking, feeling uneasy in their hearts. It seemed like the divine fortune-telling girl was angry. Ning had an expressionless face and did not even look at the crowd. She picked up a piece of paper and tore it into 10 pieces. Then she picked up a pen and wrote 10 numbers from 1 to 10 on each piece of paper. Everyone stared at her intently, not knowing what she meant by this. Ning put down the pen and looked up at the crowd. She calmly said, "There is a saying that heaven's secrets cannot be revealed, but fortune-telling is considered revealing heaven's secrets. I do not dare go against the heavens, otherwise I will be punished by the heavens, so I can only do 10 divinations a day. There are 10 pieces of paper with numbers on them. If you want me to calculate your divinations, then follow the order on these pieces of paper. Those that do not get a piece of paper, please come early tomorrow." After saying this, she pushed the pieces of paper to the front of the table. Suddenly, countless large hands reached out. "Aha, I got one. I got one. First, I'm first." In the blink of an eye, the 10 pieces of paper had been snatched up. Those who managed to get their hands on it were overjoyed, while those who didn't were depressed. The one who snatched the slip of paper with the number 1 written on it was a young man in his 20s who was dressed like a scholar. He was thin and tall, like a bamboo pole, and his arms were especially long. He proudly waved the piece of paper and said, "The number 1 is mine. No one can steal it from me. I'll go first." He lifted his robe and prepared to sit down on the bench in front of Ning. "Wait a minute. I'll buy your number 1 piece of paper." The middle-aged fat man that did not get a piece of paper squeezed out of the crowd and took out a white silver bill. 100 silver coins. Do you want to sell it? The scholar's eyes lit up, and he did not hesitate at all. "I'll sell." He happily nodded and gave the piece of paper to the middle-aged fat man, exchanging it for the 100 silver bill. Then he moved to the side and happily watched the show. Chapter 92. The fat middle-aged man's action instantly made all the rich people who couldn't get a piece of paper feel enlightened. They couldn't get it, but they could buy it with money. Ning smiled as she watched the rich people bid for the paper she wrote, but she did not stop them. She looked at the fat middle-aged man in front of her and asked with a smile, "This old master, do you want to calculate when you will have a child?" Although the fat squire was already filled with admiration for Chun Ning's divine fortune-telling, hearing her words, he was still shocked by her words. You, how do you know?" He was stunned. "Naturally, from your physiognomy." Chun Ning looked at the fat man's face for a while, and then looked at him up and down. Then she nodded and picked up a pen. She wrote 6 words on a piece of paper, folded it into a square, and gave it to the fat man. "I have a secret recipe here. As long as you follow this recipe, after a year, there should be good news." The fat man's jaw almost dropped in shock. He received the square with a bit of doubt. He opened it and read the words on it. "Keep your mouth shut and move your legs more." He read it word by word, but he was completely confused. "What do you mean by this?" His face sunk, and he asked in a very angry voice. Just these 6 words would allow him to hug the fat boy? He did not believe it at all. In the daytime, this girl was a swindling Jianghu swindler, wasting his 100 taels of silver for nothing. Of course, it's the meaning of the words. Keeping your mouth shut and moving your legs is to let the old master eat less and move more. It's because you're just too fat, Chun Ning said in a long voice. As soon as her voice fell, the surrounding people broke out in laughter, because what she said couldn't be more correct. That fat man was so fat that he didn't even have a neck. He had a big belly, and he looked just like a fat pig sitting there. The fat man's face turned the color of a pig's liver as he angrily said, "What does father not having a son have to do with father being fat?" "Of course it's related, and it's very related." Chun Ning's smile disappeared, and she said with a serious face, "It's because you're too fat that you still don't have a son. Even if you have 7 concubines, not only do you not have a son, you haven't even given birth to a daughter. The reason is not because of your concubines, but rather because of you. If you keep getting fat like this, I dare say that you won't have a son in this lifetime." You. The fat man pointed at Chun Ning and was so angry that he couldn't say anything. As a fatty, the last thing he wanted to hear in his life was others calling him fat. If someone dared to mention the word fat in front of him, even if it wasn't him, he would immediately turn hostile. He really wanted to curse out loud, but after thinking about it, how did she know that he had 7 concubines? Did she really calculate it? You. How did you know that this official has 7 concubines? His face turned red, and he finally managed to force out this sentence. Right now, he was only half believing Chun Ning, so he did not dare offend her. If the other side really was a divine immortal, then wouldn't he have offended an expert? Chapter 93. The fat man was given the cold shoulder, but he did not dare say anything. He angrily threw out 10 silver coins and muttered in a low voice, "Humph! What divine fortune-telling! I think you're just a swindler." Although his mouth was cursing, he still believed 70 to 80% of Chun Ning's words in his heart. He stood up and prepared to leave, but Chun Ning suddenly called out to him, "Official master, I'll give you a free sentence. If you can't give birth to a son, it has nothing to do with your women. If you randomly marry a concubine and go against the will of the heavens, then you will have to bear the consequences. This miss will say this much. I hope that the official master knows what to do next." After saying this, she no longer paid attention to the fat man and directly began to read the fortune of the person who received the second slip. The fat man was stunned for a while. He looked at Chun Ning's calm appearance, and his heart was filled with doubt. He did not immediately leave, but rather he squeezed into the crowd and watched Chun Ning read the fortune of others. If this girl could read the fortune of others accurately, then she really was a divine fortune-teller. Otherwise, she would be a swindler from head to toe, and he would definitely send her to the government to be punished. How could Chun Ning let him have his way? She did not say anything, but as long as she did, the fortune-teller would be shocked. Out of the 10 things she said, not a single one was wrong. Moreover, her words were clear and logical, causing the surrounding people to gasp in amazement. There were more and more people coming to watch the excitement. Even the vendors who were doing business were attracted over. They did not even do their business and just squeezed into the crowd to watch the excitement. The originally noisy street suddenly became deserted. Everyone squeezed into the corner of the street, surrounding that corner with 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. Not even a drop of water could pass through. Where are the people doing business on this street? Why are they all gone? On the other side of the street, there were 2 people slowly walking over. The one walking in front was a tall black-clothed man, and behind him was a blue-clothed youth. The blue-clothed youth had a surprised look on his face as he spoke. His master was not in a good mood. He knew that there would often be strange things being sold on this street, so he suggested coming here to relax. Perhaps he would be able to find something unexpected to relieve his master's boredom. But he never thought that the originally noisy street would suddenly become deserted. There was not even a single person, making him feel surprised. The black-clothed man had an expressionless face. His deep eyes fell onto the corner of the street, and his eyes slightly flashed. The originally quiet corner was now filled with people. It was as if the entire street was filled with people, not knowing what had happened. "Shall see," he softly said. "This servant understands." Xiaoxi immediately ran to the corner of the street where the crowd was. Then, with a great deal of effort, he squeezed his way through and finally reached the front. Standing on his tiptoes to look at the center of the crowd, he couldn't help being overjoyed. It was actually her. This was truly a case of wearing out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find it by chance without any effort. This was wearing iron shoes in a fruitless search. It was really finding it without any effort. The reason why Master was in a bad mood was because of her. He was so happy that he jumped 3 feet high. Just as he was about to squeeze out of the crowd to report to the black-clothed man, he was unable to move in the next moment. At this moment, Chun Ning was reading a middle-aged man's words. In just a few words, she had made the middle-aged man gasp in amazement, treating her like a goddess. "Divine fortune teller, what you said is completely correct. Hearing the divine fortune teller's words today is better than reading books for 10 years. This is a small token of gratitude. I ask the divine fortune teller to accept it as a token of my respect." Chapter 94. Chun Ning sent the middle-aged man off with her eyes and then put away the red packet. Her hand slightly sank, and it was actually very heavy. This red packet did not look big, but it was very heavy. It could be imagined that it was not silver, but rather gold. She gently curled her lips and revealed a smile. She never thought that there would be so many rich people in this era. Next, she placed the red packet in Xiao Ru's hands and continued. Xiaoxi could no longer move his feet. His 2 eyes were staring at Chun Ning's face, not even blinking as he watched her read other people's fortunes. To be honest, before this, he did not think that there was anything special about this girl at all. The main thing was her face. It was a yellow and malnourished face. Other than her clear and bright eyes, there was nothing special about her. He just couldn't understand why his master was so interested in such a girl. If one wanted to see a girl, any girl in his master's house was prettier than her. But there were so many good-looking girls, but his master never looked at any of them. How could he like this girl? But today, he had personally seen her read other people's fortunes. He found that he had already forgotten about the other side's normal appearance and was completely attracted by her way of speaking. He unknowingly fell into a trance and completely forgot about what his master had told him. The black-clothed man waited for a long time, but Xiaoxi did not come back. His heart couldn't help tightening. He knew the martial arts of his personal follower. Don't look at how young he was. He was a martial arts genius. Normal people were not his match, and even if it was a normal Jianghu expert, he could still deal with 2 or 3 of them. So his first thought was that something had happened to Xiaoxi. His figure flashed, and like a hawk, he landed on the edge of the crowd. Seeing the tightly packed crowd, there was not even a single gap. He was not fast or slow as he walked forward like he was taking a leisurely stroll. The crowd in front of him was like nothing. Everyone felt an undercurrent move, and they couldn't help moving to the side, making a path for him. Xiaoxi, before he even reached the center of the crowd, he saw Xiao Si. That brat had an infatuated look in front of him, not knowing what he was listening to. Master, the man's deep voice woke Xiao Si up from his dream. He saw the black-clothed man standing in front of him and remembered his task. He couldn't help feeling a bit guilty. I told you to come here to listen to a story, huh? The black-clothed man's voice did not contain any emotions, but the coldness in his voice made Xiao Si shiver. It's not a story, Master. It's that girl. Look, she's reading someone's fortune. Xiao Si swallowed a mouthful of saliva and pointed at Xiao Si. Sure enough, as soon as he finished speaking, he saw his master's gloomy gaze change direction in an instant. It was her. The black-clothed man's eyes suddenly became focused. His gaze fell on the words, "Iron-mouthed divine fortune teller," and he was slightly startled. "Aged," I said, "Xiao Xiao book." "Xiao Si." Xiao Xiao said. Xiao Yin said. He did not make a sound as he quietly stood in the crowd, watching Chun Ning read the fortune of a fortune teller sitting in front of table. Chapter 95. He spent 500 taels of silver to buy the last piece of paper without batting an eyelid. After sitting down, Chun Ning asked him if he wanted to read his fortune or fortune. He thought about it, and then said, "I'll read your fortune." His voice was low, but it was very powerful. He thought about it for a bit before picking up the pen and writing the word return. Then he pushed it in front of Chun Ning. His strokes were very smooth. Chun Ning looked at it and asked, "What do you want to read?" The scholar said, "I have something that I can't find no matter how I look. I want to calculate the whereabouts of this thing and when it will return to my side. I wonder if the divine fortune-telling girl can calculate it?" Chun Ning couldn't help being stunned. She asked, "What is it?" The scholar slightly shook his head and did not answer. Chun Ning knew that this was something that was hard to say. In front of everyone, he could not say anything. But like this, the scholar had given her a very difficult problem. She was not an immortal from the heavens. If she could even calculate the whereabouts of the other person's lost item, that would be too incredible. Not to mention that she didn't even know what the missing item was. When Xiao Si heard this, he couldn't hold it in any longer. He shouted, "Hey, aren't you clearly making it hard for people? This girl is not part of your family. If you lose something and don't go look for it in your own home, is this something that can be calculated with just divination?" Once he spoke, many people around him began to agree with him. This little brother is right. He really is making things difficult for people. Divine fortune-telling girl should just ignore him. That's right. If you lose something, go look for it in your own home. The crowd began to roar as they chased the scholar away. The scholar ignored everyone's ridicule and just looked at Chun Ning. With a serious expression, he said, "I know this matter is too difficult, so I'm just trying my luck with this girl's fortune-telling. If this girl can't calculate it, then this is the will of the heavens." AI. Chun Ning had thought that this person was deliberately causing trouble, but when she looked at the scholar's expression, she found that it wasn't the case. He must have really run into trouble and was at his wit's end. That's why he thought of fortune-telling and asking for his fortune. But she really couldn't help him with this matter. If she could even calculate this, then she really would be an immortal from the heavens. She gave an apologetic smile. "I'm really sorry. Your Excellency's divination, I can't calculate it." The scholar had a trace of hope in his eyes, but when he heard Chun Ning say this, the light in his eyes quickly dimmed. "I was presumptuous and disturbed this girl." He sighed and stood up. With a flick of his sleeve, he touched the corner of the table with a ding-dong sound. A rattle drum rolled out from his sleeve. He bent down to pick up the rattle, gently brushed away the dust on it, and lovingly put it back into his sleeve. He turned around to leave. Seeing this, Chun Ning's eyes flashed and her heart seemed to be touched. She lowered her gaze and happened to see the word return written by the scribe. Her two beautiful eyebrows slightly furrowed. "Please." The scholar turned around and looked at Chun Ning with a puzzled expression. "Is there something else Miss wants?" Chun Ning's eyes sparkled. Her eyes were as bright as autumn, and her lips curled into a faint smile. Although her face was yellow and her beauty was covered, The smile on her face filled the scholar's heart with hope. Chapter 96. Chun Ning revealed a faint smile and said, "The thing you lost, was it square?" The scholar's body trembled, and he revealed an excited expression. He shot over to the table and almost flipped it over. Right, that's right, it was square. Divine fortune-telling girl, can you calculate the whereabouts of this thing? He anxiously asked. Chun Ning did not answer him and continued to ask, "In your backyard, is there a well?" Yes, there is a well. The scholar swallowed a mouthful of saliva and gave a heavy nod. He could not hide the look of surprise on his face. "If my calculations aren't wrong, the thing you're looking for should be at the bottom of the well. You just need to drain the well, and you'll be able to find it. Is that true?" The scholar had a look of disbelief as he looked at Chun Ning in a daze. "I only calculated it. I don't have 100% guarantee." Chun Ning was telling the truth. It was just that she was using reasoning and not calculation. The scholar seemed like he didn't believe her. He shook his head and muttered to himself, "At the bottom of the well? Impossible. How could that thing be at the bottom of the well?" Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something, and a look of joy flashed across his face. He broke through the crowd and began to run. Hey, don't run, stop. You haven't even paid your fortune yet." The scholar looked very gentle, but he ran very fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared at the end of the street. Xiaoru chased after him for a few steps and angrily stomped her feet at the scholar's back. "Young miss, that fellow looks like a dog, but I never thought that he would be someone who doesn't pay for his fortune. It really is infuriating." She angrily pouted her lips. "It's fine. I don't have a 100% guarantee on this divination, so I'll just treat it as a gift to him." Chun Ning revealed an uncaring smile. She cupped her hands at the dense crowd around her. "We'll stop here for today. That's all for today. Those who still want to have their fortunes read, please come early tomorrow." After saying this, she led Xiaoru to the carpentry shop to return the rented table and chairs. The people who still wanted to see more followed behind her. They were filled with praises and discussions. Chun Ning turned around to look at the long tail behind her. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If she had known that there would be such a big commotion, she wouldn't have set up a stall here to do her fortune-telling. If this continued, she would quickly become famous in the capital city. People were afraid of fame. Pigs were afraid of being fat. Being famous was not a good thing for her. If one day someone saw through her disguise and recognized her as the real princess of the King Ding Yuan Palace, it would be very bad for her. Chun Ning rubbed her chin and began to think about whether or not she should find another way to earn money. She turned with Xiaoru and Xiao. Xiaoru, Ning, and Xiaoru, and Xiao. Finally, they turned into a quiet alley. There was no one behind her and Xiaoru. She, leaving the long tail behind, ran. Chun lost. I. However, before she could even catch her breath, she heard a malicious voice above her head. "Little girl, you're running quite fast. Are you in such a rush to give money to this man?" Chun Ning suddenly looked up and saw a 30-year-old man standing on the wall. He had a pockmarked face, and his face was filled with meat. He had a fierce look on his face. That pockmarked man snapped his fingers, and several dozen people appeared from both ends of the alley. Looking at their clothes, they should be local ruffians. Chapter 97. Xiaoru's face turned white from fear. She tightly grabbed onto Chun Ning's sleeve and said in a trembling voice, Young miss, who are they?" Chun Ning already knew in her heart, and she couldn't help letting out a sigh in her heart. What she was afraid of really came. The so-called tall trees attract the wind. This was not false at all. She had just popped her head out, and she was already being targeted by this group of ruffians. They must have wanted to cause trouble for her, but there were too many people watching, so they didn't show themselves. They waited until the two of them were alone before suddenly appearing and blocking them here. "Don't be afraid, Xiaoru. They're here to rob us. Just give them our money bags, and we'll be fine." Chun Ning patted the back of Xiaoru's hand and comforted her. She waited for a bit. There were too many people, and they were all men. Although she knew some martial arts, it was hard for two fists to fight four hands. No matter what, she couldn't beat these hoodlums. Originally, she wanted to use the same plan and capture the leader first. She wanted to capture the leader with the pockmarked face, and then the rest of the lackeys would collapse on their own. But the pockmarked face was very smart. He stood high up on the wall and commanded the lackeys to move forward, making it so that she could see but not reach. After weighing the pros and cons, Chun Ning decided to lose the money to avoid trouble, because any problem that money could solve was not trouble at all. When the pockmarked face heard Chun Ning's words, he laughed and said, "This little girl is quite smart. Since you know what these men do, then obediently hand over the money." Xiao Ru tightly held onto the money bags and angrily stared at the approaching hoodlums. This was the money that the young miss had worked so hard to earn. She was not willing to let it be taken away like this. One of the hoodlums grabbed the money bag and forcefully pulled it back. He snapped, "Give it to me." Xiao Ru gritted her teeth and did not let go. Chun Ning said, "Xiao Ru, give the money to them." "No, young miss, this is the money you worked so hard to earn. You can't let them take it away." Xiao Ru's eyes turned red and she was about to cry. "Io, this little girl is quite pretty. Why don't you play with these masters?" Several hoodlums stared at Xiao Ru's pretty face as they revealed intoxicated eyes. They surrounded Xiao Ru and did not even look at Chun Ning. Xiao Ru couldn't help trembling in fear. The two scoundrels reached out their hands to touch Xiao Ru's face and waist. Xiao Ru let out a scream. She had already retreated to the corner and could not avoid it, so she could only let go of the money bag. But the two hoodlums did not withdraw their hands. Rather, they grabbed Xiao Ru's wrists and pulled her into their arms. "Hey, I've already given you the purse. Let her go. Don't tell me you want to rape her after robbing her." Chun Ning knit her brows and waved her right arm. With a block and a push, she pushed away the hoodlum grabbing Xiao Ru and then stood in front of her. Xiao Ru's face was already. Xiao Ru's face. Xiao R and. Xiao cry. Even if she. Xiao Ning. Xiao. Ning Xiao, Ning said. Not. The pockmarked man also stared at Xiao Ru. Although Xiao Ru's body was not fully grown yet, her face was delicate and her skin was crystal clear. She was like a budding flower, already having an alluring charm. Chun Ning's face sunk as if it was covered in a layer of frost. These hoodlums were going too far. Chapter 98. Xiao Ru bit her lips until they bled. She reached out her hand and forcefully pushed Chun Ning out as she cried out. You have to keep your word. I will stay and you'll let my young miss go. Young miss, quickly leave. This servant doesn't care. As long as the young miss can safely leave, that's fine. Xiao Ru, I won't leave you alone. If you want to stay, then we'll stay together. Chun Ning was also determined. She rolled up her sleeves and prepared to go all out. All right, then you can all stay here. Your little girl's face isn't that great, but your body is definitely good. It's all concave and protruding. It's much better than that little girl who hasn't even grown up yet. Father will just close my eyes when I play. After blowing out the lights, women are all the same. The pockmarked man in the lead stared at Chun Ning and gave a vulgar smile. The group of hoodlums broke out in laughter as they surrounded Chun Ning and Xiao Ru. Whistles and laughter filled the air. Xiao Ru's face turned red. Ever since she was young, she had never heard this kind of dirty words before. Her little fists were tightly clenched as she wished she could smash the pockmarked man's teeth with a single punch. Chun Ning's eyes turned cold as she coldly stared at the pockmarked man. Stop boasting up there. Aren't you afraid the wind will cut your tongue? If you're a man, then come down and fight me one-on-one. All right, let's fight one-on-one. Why would father be afraid of a weak little girl like you? The pockmarked man gave a frivolous smile. How could he place a girl like Chun Ning in his eyes, especially in front of his subordinates? If he didn't fight her one-on-one, then wouldn't he be a joke? He jumped up and landed on his feet, preparing to boast a few more times. Chun-Ning was waiting for him to jump down from the wall. How could she wait for him to speak again as she sent out a punch? With a pung sound, it landed right on the pockmarked man's nose. The pockmarked man did not expect Chun-Ning to make a move this fast. She said she would make a move. He was not prepared at all. This punch made his nose sour, and 2 streams of tears couldn't help flowing down. Zay, you really have no future. You've only been punched by me once, and you're already crying. All right, elder sister won't hit you anymore. Chun-Ning gave a tisk sound and waved her fist. Her voice was filled with ridicule. Her words of ridicule made the pockmarked man even more ashamed than the punch. He angrily shouted, "Stinking girl, you're seeking death." Pum! Before his voice fell, Chun-Ning's fist slammed into his right cheek. This one was even heavier than the last one, and he instantly felt something in his mouth. When he spat it out, he saw several white teeth mixed with blood falling to the ground. "Stinking girl, you dare hit your grandfather." Bang! A heavy punch landed on his left cheek, and he spat out a few more teeth. At this time, the pockmarked man's face had already turned into a pig's head. His head was buzzing, and he stood shakily. Chun-Ning didn't stop there. She sent out a kick and kicked the pockmarked man to the ground. Then she charged forward and punched the pockmarked man with her left and right fists. Pung, 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 pung. Ai. The pockmarked man was crying out in pain at first, but he couldn't even cry out anymore. His face had already become unrecognizable. His nose was covered in blood, his eyes had turned black, and all his teeth had been knocked out. His mouth was swollen like a pig's mouth. Chapter 99. Those hoodlums were all shocked by Chun-Ning's cruelty. Especially when they saw the pockmarked man's pitiful state, they all took in a cold breath and looked at Chun-Ning with a strange gaze. Oh my God, is she still a woman? She was simply a demonic goddess. This kind of woman, who dared to provoke her? Xiaoru was filled with excitement as she waved her little fist and cheered her on from the side. Use more strength, good hit. Young miss, use a bit more strength. She shouted as she ruthlessly kicked the pockmarked man's but several times. Chun-Ning let out a breath and straightened her back. Her hands were already sore from all the beating. After this round of beating, the pockmarked man's grandmother wouldn't even be able to recognize him. You're all dead people. Why aren't you attacking together for father? Beat these 2 women to death. The pockmarked man had been beaten silly by Chun-Ning. He was lying on the ground without moving, but he suddenly opened his toothless mouth and roared at the people around him. The hoodlums finally reacted. They all revealed fierce expressions as they slowly approached Chun-Ning and Xiaoru. With the pockmarked man's reminder, they all understood. They had many people. No matter how fierce the other side was, it was just a woman. What did they have to be afraid of? Stop. If any of you dare take a step forward, I'll take your life. Chun-Ning grabbed the pockmarked man's throat with one hand. Her eyes were ice cold as she coldly spoke. Who would have thought that this move wouldn't work? All right, since you've killed our boss, then I'll be the new boss. Brothers, let's attack together. A hoodlum shouted out. With a wave of his hand, everyone charged forward. Damn! Chun-Ning couldn't help secretly scolding herself for making a mistake. These hoodlums were not the same as Motherland from the king's palace. They did not care about the pockmarked man's life or death. Seeing several dozen people charge forward like a beehive, even if she had 3 heads and 6 arms, she wouldn't be a match. At this critical moment, a figure suddenly fell from the sky. His tall and straight body was like a pine tree, firmly protecting her behind him. Who dares move against her? The black-clothed man coldly said as his deep and cold eyes swept over them. All the ruffians and scoundrels felt a cold wind rising from the ground, and they couldn't help but shiver. Who was this man? How terrifying! They who bullied the weak and feared the strong were instantly shocked by the black-clothed man's killing intent. Their hearts began to beat like drums. What are you afraid of? He's just one person. Brothers, charge. There was someone who did not know death. He gave a loud shout before charging forward while waving a wooden stick and charged forward with a wooden stick. The black-clothed man didn't even look at the ruffian, nor did he see him move. He only saw the man's sleeve move slightly, and the ruffian with the stick suddenly flew through the air as if he had been hit by something. Blood sprayed out of his mouth as he flew through the air. When he landed on the ground, his body twitched a few times before he stopped moving. Chun said, "Chun, truly, truly." Even though she knew in her heart that this man in black who came from the sky to save her was also a weasel paying respects to a chicken and didn't have any good intentions, she was still shocked by the man in black's unfathomable martial arts. Chun 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 sword. Chun Ning's words. Chun, I king. Ning Ning. Someone's dead. Run. Everyone quickly run. Chapter 100. The only thing left on the ground was the pig head pockmarked face and the ruffian who had been beaten to death by the black-clothed man. Master, what a good move, the universe hiding sleeve. The blue-clothed youth Xiao Si came out from the corner of the alley and smiled as he walked over. He gave the black-clothed man a thumbs up and praised him. Although his words were to flatter the black-clothed man, they were also meant for Chen Ning to hear. The black-clothed man gave a cold snort and coldly looked at Xiao Si. Xiao Si immediately knew that his flattery had failed. He closed his mouth and lowered his head. While the black-clothed man was not paying attention, he secretly stuck out his tongue. This girl, this one has come late to save you, causing you to be startled. The black-clothed man turned around and faced Chen Ning. His voice was very calm and did not rise or fall. His voice was a bit deep. It was very magnetic and very pleasant to listen to. But somehow, the words that came out were very dry and did not have any warmth at all. His figure is tall and slender. When he slightly lowered his head to look at her, it gave her a kind of pressure that made it hard for her to breathe. Chen Ning couldn't help curling her lips. She took a step back and wanted to avoid the pressure that was being released from his body. No. This black-clothed hero appeared at the right time, not late at all. It really was just right. She said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. Her eyes glanced over at the corner of the alley, and she gave a sarcastic smile as she said, "Actually, the view from that position is not very good. Next time the hero can look at the play from a different angle, and you'll be able to see it more clearly." Although the black-clothed man had appeared in her most dangerous moment and saved her and Xiao Ru, she did not feel the slightest bit of gratitude in her heart. Instead, she felt that it was very sarcastic and funny. From the moment she saw the black-clothed man appear, she had already guessed that he and the one called Xiao Si had arrived a long time ago, but they did not make a move. They just hid in the corner and watched as those ruffians humiliated the two defenseless girls. It was not until the last moment that the black-clothed man appeared in front of her like a savior and helped her get rid of those ruffians. This move was called the hero saving the beauty, but if it was said in a bad way, it would be taking advantage of others. If it was any other girl in this situation, they would definitely be filled with gratitude towards the black-clothed man. But Chen Ning was not that easy to trick. She could see through the black-clothed man's intentions with a single glance. How could there be any gratitude towards this man? There was only disdain. As soon as she finished speaking, Xiao Si's face turned red. He immediately lowered his head, not daring to look at Chen Ning. His heart was filled with complaints about his master. Why didn't he save her earlier? In the end, he didn't get any benefits and was instead embarrassed by this girl to the point he couldn't even raise his head. Although the black-clothed man was expressionless, a trace of embarrassment flashed across his ink-black eyes. He could not help but cover his mouth and cough softly. He never would have thought that Chen Ning would see through him. Moreover, she had pointed it out without any hesitation. His face couldn't help but feel hot, as if he had been slapped in the face. Xiao, the black-clothed man, and said, Xiao Yun, Qian Duo. You are Qian Duo young master. Xiao Ru came back to her senses from her fright. She saw the black-clothed man with a look of pleasant surprise. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and Don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.